everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, waving, and getting better. I'm joined by Jeff Marchiafava.
That's me. I got my wave in.
Yeah, he's got his wave in. All right. We're joined by Jacob Geller.
I'm nervous.
I'm getting nervous, sir. Joined by Leo Vader. Waving. Today, we have a lot packed into this show. We're talking about Star Wars Outlaws. Leo and I got to play 4 hours, but 2 of us got to play it, so that's 8 hours total. You can factor that in for everybody there. We're going to be talking about... This can't be right. They couldn't have released this game in the year 2024. World of Goo 2, ladies and gentlemen. The Goo 2 is here. SteamWorld Heist 2. Leo wants to talk about Once Human, which... I'm going in completely blind on. I'm excited to talk about that. Jacob Geller wants to talk about Nine Souls, of course, which is a shame we haven't talked about it yet. But this show just keeps getting better and better. We love Jeffem. We love Star Wars. But back half of the show is where it kicks into overdrive. It's where everybody yells, punch it, and we slam it forward, because back half of the show, we have the one and only Haley DeBoom joining us once again. The person who donated generously to get on the show last December, I think it was. From the community, then we said, okay, she's far more impressive than any of us. She worked at ILM and Square Enix and Apple. Like, okay, she's welcome back whenever. So she's going to jump in on this time.
Do you think that's the only time in history that's happened where someone has paid to come on a show and then the show's been like, wait, you're so good, please come back. You don't have to pay this.
We are refunding your donation.
Oh, she's paying every time.
Yeah,
you wouldn't believe it.
What a great setup.
Also, we have Lucy James from GameSpot and Giant Bomb fandom overall. It's exciting to have her on the show. I don't think she's ever been on the main show, but she's been on Trivia Tower and some other stuff, so I'm very excited to have her on. I'm a big fan of hers, and we're going to be talking about Thank Goodness You're Here, which should be a fun talker, and then also a little bit about Dragon Age the Veilguard, because she just... was the moderator for a panel at Comic-Con for that game, and we haven't really given that game its due, so we got those Dragon Age fans on for your viewing and listening pleasure, and then great questions from the community in the back half of the show. Little behind the scenes thing. I always love this, because I'm always overwhelmed by how many good community questions we get every week, but Lucy James, when I was sharing like an abbreviated version of the questions, you'd be like, hey, which ones do you want to talk about? Even she was like, oh, these are all so good. I'd be down for talking about all these. So congratulations, everybody on Patreon. You amazed the cold-hearted Lucy James. All right. Leo, let's dive into Star Wars Outlaws, man.
Yes.
Okay.
We put up a fun video of us trying to be as scoundrelly as possible, trying to like break it and do weird, mean things, but we haven't really just talked about our experience playing it yet.
No, I was obnoxious. We recorded that entire preview. Yeah, just showing like basically pushing the game to its limits. How scoundrelly can you be? You know, if you were trying to play this game like a jackass, what does it look like? But I was really obnoxious with, I don't actually want to know what you think about this game, Leo. Save it for the podcast, please. But we each played 4 hours. Leo through like a remote parsec section. You made the Kessel Run in a couple parsecs, didn't you? But me otherwise though, I went to LA and got to play 4 hours of this thing at that big event, which is where we recorded the Disneyland tour and all that stuff with Mike Minotti, which is up on Giant Bomb. But Leo Vader, the one and only Star Wars Outlaws. What do you think about it, man?
I enjoyed my time with it. It didn't necessarily restore my faith in Ubisoft that has been shattered a bit over the years. Not shattered, but slowly chipped away at. This isn't like some big comeback. It's kind of what you expect it to be. But what's in there is fun, and there's some neat little twists on it that I already got a glimpse of how they changed things up, and definitely enough for me to be curious to see where it goes in the full thing. Yeah,
so I think this game, based on my very informal polling, it seems like hype is shockingly low for, hey, everybody, this is a huge budget, open worlds, multiple planets, right? Star Wars game. And everyone's like, yeah. And I think it is kind of that Ubisoft exhaustion, but I think there's a couple things in this game that they do to try and get around that, the classic Ubisoft open world formula. And there's a lot of little things we can jump into, but like, you know, just a basic idea of like no XP, you're getting new skills and stuff like that from exploring the world, finding NPCs, and then those NPCs are like the masters of a certain area, you know? So it's like, okay, you do this whole side quest over here for this person, and they're like a mechanic, and then they can upgrade your speeder that you're taking around the world, get an extra boost, stuff like that. And so that idea just of not the classical skill tree, not the classic XP thing, not climbing a tower, like it feels like if you're really fried from Ubisoft, like don't write this one off.
It's almost Starfield like the skill tree in that you are seeing what skills you want and doing the objectives to get towards that. Take people out in a stealthy way to get a new stealth skill, which I don't think people were super hot on that. And I don't know if this is a coincidence that it's like that or if it's some sign that that's where these games are going. Less XP based, more specific challenge based. And I'm not sure how I feel about it because it's like, okay, if I don't take people out in the way I need to progress these skills, then this encounter has kind of gotten me nothing. And I don't know if I'm overthinking it, but that doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I can see it. So I think this is going to be a solid game. Like my conclusion is, it seems like the same level of quality, maybe a notch up from like Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. But a big thrill is the same developer, right? But if you're hungry for living in a Star Wars world, you're going to eat it up. I think the Avatar game, if for the big Avatar fans, were like, finally, I can live in Pandora a little bit. This is a solid game. And I think that idea of just soaking in the Avatar world was a thrill for a lot of people. And I think with Star Wars, it's just going to be exponentially more of that, But Jeff, I remember you played Frontiers of Pandora and the exploration fried you at a certain point.
Yeah, I really didn't like the way that they handled that at all. So I hope it's nothing like that. You guys, I watched your video on you guys trying to be scoundrelly, and I don't know if it was just you guys. You guys were trying to blow up banthas and whatnot. But did you get a sense from the segment that you played that is actually like you are building out a character in the kind of moral way that you wanted to, or is that already kind of overblown?
For me, I think so. I like that they don't go a straight good guy get good powers, bad guy get bad powers. It's playing with the reputations, and it's not even always doing that, which I think makes it more of being immersed with the character and creating a specific type of scoundrel. And my example story for that is the two main syndicates we were working with, or choosing which one to work with in the demo, were the Pike Syndicate and the Crimson Dawn Syndicate. And I ended up allying with the Pike Syndicate randomly, didn't know enough about either of them to really make a decision. But then I had kind of positive rep with them, which means they let me in their base, I can trade with them and stuff. And I negative rep with Crimson Dawn, which means I have to sneak around their base. I can do stealth takedowns, but if they spot me, they escort me out. And presumably, if they fully hate you rather than just have a distaste for you, they kill you on sight. And then I had to make this decision of you have to steal this thing. Both places probably have it, the Crimson Dawn and the Pike Syndicate. Which one do you want to go for? And I said, I'm doing well with the Pike Syndicate. I'll probably go take it from Crimson Dawn. And so I went there and tried to sneak in and did a few runs of it. And it was really hard. And I didn't have a lot of skills to take care of it. And I eventually was like, the other one's not far away. Let me try the other one. Even though I didn't want to piss off the Pike Syndicate, whatever. I'm tired of doing this. Right. So I went to go try the Pike Syndicate. And what happened was I could just walk in because I was allied with them. And then I snuck in and I stole the thing. And that didn't even hurt my rep because they didn't know I did it. So it ended up being a benefit to me to have a good reputation for them when I needed to steal something from them. And I kind of expected that to be like, okay, now they hate me. But no, it's like you can do these sneaky behind the scenes things that take advantage of how they feel about you. And it's going to fluctuate back and forth throughout the game. Like there are going to be times where they go back to not wanting you in their base and vice versa.
Yeah, I'm curious how that's going to play out. Because the section that we played, it was a couple different chunks, but it started out and it's like a little ways into the game, but still basically the beginning. Seems like there's kind of like a starter planet, and then we started on the second planet, which it felt like it was kind of the first open world planet that you're on. I mean, it's Kay Vess getting out of the ship, putting her clothes on for the first time, her new wardrobe, I should say. It felt very much like, all right, let's go on this adventure. And so as they're trying to seed the idea of the different syndicates and stuff, I don't know if you felt the same way, Leo, but I'm like, yeah, you can choose which syndicate to ally with. I truly don't care. I guess Crimson Dawn, because I'm curious about the Kira and Darth Maul connection, but it's not maybe those characters as they build up, I'll feel more strongly about oh man, my contact with the Hutt Syndicate is so cool. I want to be in bed with them. But it feels like at this point kind of like a four-way coin toss. I don't know, sure, the Pike seem okay. I'll get a discount at their stores. That seems all right. But emotionally, it just felt like nothing. But again, this is the very beginning of the game. So I hope that those characters can make you care who you're allied with.
Emotionally, it feels like nothing is, I think, a bit of the brand motto for Disney Star Wars. But I think it tracks with like Jenny Nicholson's video about the Star Wars hotel.
Right.
It's like they really want you to do smuggling. They were trying to get her on the smuggling track, if anything. And this game, it's like, yeah, they're 4 different syndicates and they all kind of do smuggling, from what I understand. And that's like kind of a work safe type of bad guy to be. And I think it makes sense here because, they're not smuggling like fentanyl. They're smuggling like laser guns that everybody loves. And
things that you use to murder people.
Right. In a fun way. But I don't know. It's like everybody has to be good enough for you to have fun allying with and nasty enough where you don't feel bad for betraying them. And I think because the game design is you fluctuating your different reputations intentionally, that's part of it, is playing them off each other. And it goes up and down really fast. Like one action will have a huge impact on your reputation bar. I think they all kind of have to be not that different.
Yeah, I guess so. It's interesting you bring up kind of the state of Star Wars and stuff. And like, I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm caught up on the live action stuff. If you're really in the bag, I think soaking in this world, I think it's going to be a thrill. Like they want you to spend time in the cities, get to know the characters. And I love, forgive me for saying this, Jacob, I know you'll be disgusted, but I love this big budget of a Star Wars game. I love seeing this game be like, God, a lot of effort went into this. And I'm happy to see it out there. At the same time, it's like, I felt a little bit going through it like I did with Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is a game a lot of people love. But, if you remember our discussion about it on the podcast, it's kind of like, okay, I feel like I'm just kind of going through the motions and I'm not filled or stirred in my soul anywhere by anything that I'm playing. And I feel like it's a little bit of that. Like one of their pillars that they emphasized in the discussions was, we want to create a galaxy of wonder. And you can go anywhere in this open world Star Wars game. And for the 4 hours I played, I was not stirred with a sense of wonder really at all. And like the low point for me was just kind of clearing out bases of stormtroopers. Just kind of like, okay, this is absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with this combat. It gets the job done. Where I was starting to spark up a little bit, starting to rev those engines like a pod racer in episode 1, Jeff, like a Sebulba Gascano pod racer.
Slimo.
Was like the open world stuff. Like the one planet that we got to play the open world stuff on was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, they were talking about first open world Star Wars game, which everyone's like, well, technically, but still like being on a speeder bike and roaming around this sci-fi planet and like doing different quests for people on different sides of this area. It's like, oh, this does feel new for this world. And I was really getting a kick out of that idea. Or just like cruising around on the speeder bike and you see, the Empire speeding past you as well as you're fighting and you can kind of like juke left and right on your speeder bike and stuff. Like that felt like something that could be a thrill throughout this entire game.
And Star Wars games, I'm sure developers want to do it, fans want it, the higher ups want it. It's like Jedis have force powers. That's a fun video game right there. And you see fewer that are grounded and you don't get that. At least we're told we don't get that in this. And that's always attracted me more. Star Wars Battlefront 1 as a kid really ignited my imagination, just being a ground soldier in those big battles. And Andor recently, I really, really loved. I have so much love for that show. And this did kind of give those vibes of being that citizen in Star Wars, that regular everyday person who's not going to be in the history books. And true, Ubisoft, what they still are great at, if one thing they're amazing at is having thousands of artists to devote to realizing worlds and taking Star Wars tentpoles, this like futuristic but grimy and not like idyllic really in any way, having that spread out over so much but also be so dense over so many like unique props, that is really fun to just walk around and explore.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest surprises for me in the game is how much stealth there is. Like, because, you mentioned sneaking into the different kind of syndicate areas and stuff like that. And if you get caught, it's like big red flash on the screen, caught, try again. I think it's going to be frustrating for people. It's the type of game where there's a lot of going up to a base and people saying, and the whole thing is Kay Vess is talking a lot to Nyx, her little alien dog buddy, right? Who's going out and doing little things for you, like picking up guns and distracting enemies and stuff. But instead of kind of like the Aloy classic monologue that people are annoyed by, you can get away with it in this game because she's talking to Nyx. She's explaining everything to Nyx. But it's a lot of, okay, we can't go in through the front door. There's got to be another way in. There's always
a vent 30 feet to the side. Every single encounter we had.
Classic vent 30 feet to your right or left type of game from at least, where it's starting out here. But something that is cool that I'm optimistic about, and I'm curious to see what it's like when you're actually soaking in the real game, is they are also trying to make these cities and areas like dense and to have a lot of people like talking off to the side. Like they want it to feel a little bit like a Deus Ex of like you're walking on the streets and someone's like, hey, you know what I was thinking the other day? That this Fathier race coming up is actually not fair and it's rigged in favor of this person. Or actually, I heard there's a secret way into the Hutt cartel base if you go this way. Like they want you to, maybe obnoxiously so in the beginning area, is like overhear these conversations and be like, Eureka, I found a way, which is still, it's cool to have in this type of game. Was it landing for you, Leo? Just like how the conversations and the little teases they're trying to do in the city life?
Yeah, and honestly, in a way we'll talk about with Thank Goodness You're Here, oddly, is like you go through these same areas because you need to talk to these same quest givers at these same cantinas, and you'll hear different conversations, and maybe things have progressed. Maybe something is set up that kind of continues later on. Having that breathes some life into it for sure. But yeah, I haven't seen it in a super systemic way, besides like one guy on your way into one cantina that you're not allowed in. He's like, if you give me money, I'll escort you in.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Did you have other big surprises? It was different than you thought?
There's an ability in the skill tree that I really grinded for once I noticed it was there and then didn't have time to try. But it's called Fast Talk, and it's almost Metal Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Pain style. You're spotted and it turns to them in slow motion. If we remember that iconic ability that balanced the stealth and made it less annoying to get caught. This one is like you press a button as you're spotted and you put your hands up and you start vamping. And presumably you can do like Nick stuff, have Nix run up and distract him while you're doing that. But that is an interesting little balance to the stealth. And I hope there are more fun skills like that because I haven't seen that in particular before. And then the way you level it up is like you go from being able to stun one person with your vamping to like stop a whole room from attacking you. And it'd be fun to enter a fight intentionally that way, just breaking stealth, but like buying yourself time.
Yeah.
That could be fun scoundrel stuff.
Classic scoundrel stuff, yeah. Do you think Nix is going to catch on as much as they think it is?
It felt novel to me.
Okay.
In just it not being a droid for some reason, that felt new compared to like Jedi
compared
Survivor,
to BD1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and cute.
Okay.
And maybe a little potentially trite exploration could be more fun if you feel like you're bonding with this guy, but I don't know how much that's in the game versus just getting new skins for him.
Yeah, no, that works. I mean, big cat person, Leo Vader. I was curious to hear you're taking this because like at the event, it was very much like, can you believe how cute Nix is? Just over and over again. Is this going to be like that weird duck droid from episode 9 that they thought was going to catch on and it didn't really catch on in a weird way at all? Like, are people going to be as gaga over Nix as they think they are?
You think this is the next Baby Yoda. It's not the next Baby Yoda, bro.
Yeah, it's not.
Just a little green guy.
Yeah. And D. Bradley Baker, who's done a ton of Star Wars VO work, he's like the voice of Nix in here. Also, I don't know where I missed this drop, but during the panel, they talked about Lando is going to be in this game. Maybe he just hasn't had like a starring role in the trailer, but I'm really curious to see what that's going to be like in the overall story here.
And Lando being like, I think it's interesting their inclusion of him and their all-encompassing scoundrel word they like to use for this game.
Yeah.
I wonder if there will be like bigger, harder decisions like he famously made in Empire Strikes Back. Some truly like nefarious evil stuff you could potentially do.
Yeah.
And just not reckon with it in a karma way, but in a reputation way.
Yeah, I'm hoping for
see this that way.
Yeah, a little extra spice to K-Vest so far. She's not Landoing with me so far in the first 4 hours at least. I'm curious to see what the character is like over the whole thing, but a little kind of generic, pleasant scoundrel vibes, but we'll see where it goes.
Sure.
I think it's fascinating. Just in the game industry, like the state of Star Wars now that it's freed from EA's Darth Vader like grip, and have all these different publishers making Star Wars games, but because it's all going through Lucasfilm, they all seemingly need to be canonical within the Star Wars universe at this point. And I think that's really cool to have like all these different publishers coming to the same IP, and just because of the strength of that IP, these publishers are technically all building in the same world, like, I don't know if there'd be a universe where they'd have a Cal Kestis cameo, something like that. I think that'd be so cool to have like cross-publisher just teases, you know?
In the game.
Yeah, something that Marvel, seems like they wanted to do with Marvel games and never quite got there. And I'm sure it was too tough, but maybe the strength of Star Wars as an IP, they could get to that arena. Like, why not just have a little nod to the other games out there if they're all existing in the same universe?
Sure. It's cool when they're building stuff together, and it's less cool when it's like they're limited by these restrictions and by having to have everything go through so many layers of approval.
Yeah.
And I guess it's interesting to see where this is
I was going to say, like, it does feel limiting that it all has to be canon, because it's just kind of like, well, the biggest thing that can happen in this game is like not that big, because they're like, if it's going to, if it was big enough that the movies would have to reckon with it, they won't, because they would never make like a giant universe event in a video game, unless of course it was Fortnite and the Emperor returning.
Well, tell your friends. I mean, if it's, but I don't know.
You know, it's like, is that why, you know, in the recent, like, was it Battlefront 2? Like the new Battlefront 2 that had the campaign, and they're like, you're going to play a bad guy. But like, of course you can't ever play a bad guy in like a canon Star Wars game, because everyone has to like turn good eventually.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be like, you need to take down the second Death Star, K-Vess. Like, sure. But if it's a matter of, you know, do we really know, I'm sorry, Star Wars nerds, what like the Pike Syndicate is doing between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi? Like, maybe you could have a fatal blow for one of those big syndicates. Or, Jacob, you say you won't care, but when they're lowering your best bud Nix into a wood chipper, I mean, that's all the stakes you need in Star Wars, right? We don't need another Death Star-like threat here.
That's totally what worked about Andor, is it didn't care about being bigger than it was, and it told an emotional, successful story with good writing within small constraints, and they very well could do that here.
Yeah,
but I'd be a little surprised.
If you can turn Cal Kestis into the Empire, 10 out of 10.
We force him to join. Yeah. Oh, the weirdest thing is Star Wars is. R3 to interact. I talked about it a little bit after playing at SGF, but I have not seen a game lean this heavily into R3 is your A button. So every interaction with the world for picking up stuff is R3. And it is surreal to play a game where you're hitting in on the right stick multiple times a minute. It's so weird.
I love it. I got used to it immediately. It was like so intuitive to not have to take your finger off the stick to pick something up. It made it feel more like, you know, there's no break from exploring. It flows a little better. I don't know. I can make probably overstatements about it, but it really, I just caught on super quick, and I hope it catches on. Like, interesting little thing.
Yeah, I'm sure you can change it in the settings. Ubisoft's pretty flexible for that type of thing. But yeah, it's a big choice. I'm curious to see if other games are like, oh, of course, that saves us. We don't have to move your thumb. But yeah, it's just a lot of R3. So great for that. Jeff, you're used to R2 in Star Wars, but R3, come on.
Jeff, your response?
Sounds like an upgrade.
No.
Hey.
August 30th is when Star Wars Outlaws comes out. Yeah, high level takeaway is less wondrous than I was hoping for. Open world stuff, I'm like, what? And then everything else, it's like, okay, maybe when I'm sinking into the full game, it'll land a little bit more.
What you say less wondrous than you were hoping for. How does it compare to your actual real world expectations going into the game?
Real world expectations?
Thought this game would be, yes.
Well, I played it at SGF, so I think it's about what I expected. You know, I think the fact that I wasn't swept off my feet by the story and Jedi Survivor, stuff like that. It feels just like a little bit of that, oh God forgive me, the Ahsoka energy of like, okay, this is Star Wars, but it's not capturing my imagination with anything going on here, and it's a little bit of that extended into the game design realm. Although I do give it credit for a couple of interesting decisions with the abilities to NPCs and stuff like that. Like there's cool ideas in there, and I'm curious to see how it all comes together.
I am largely gonna play it and excited for it. Again, on the Ubisoft front, it's like there's that signature Ubisoft clunk on the animations, that intangible clunk, which God forbid any of us have a type of clunk named after us. But it is like this jarring jump between finishing a punch and going back to running that you just don't see in other games or game engines. And it seems like just all Ubisoft games are going to feel that way and just look a little worse than their like contemporaries for the size of the studio and type of game. There's just something about it that does not look as good.
The Snowdrop engine. Yeah.
Despite the great design, it's like the fidelity.
Yep. I think the world looks great. I think the art design looks great. It's just, and so many people are railing against this game for like the look of NPCs and stuff. And it's like, well, in an open world game, I understand this is going to get a little bit of a ding, other than Horizon, which seems to nail on every front, right? But it seems like, yeah, the NPCs are not going to blow you away with the fidelity here. And I hear you. I hear you with a little bit of the clunk. You know, it's definitely preview build, but it's a little bit like, okay, is that animation going to get smoothed out? What are we doing here? So yeah, we'll see. But August 30th, I mean, it's coming out damn soon.
Yeah.
All right. A game that is out. World of Goo 2.
Goo.
Oh man, here we go. The last game was in 2008, the downloadable game on PC and then also on the Wii. But it's been 16 years, Jeffem, since the last World of Goo. Isn't that absurd?
It's an absurd amount of time to wait and then be like, hey, we got a sequel.
Yeah. I mean, the
I
entire
have a sequel
Goo?
that feels exactly the same. Like it could have come out in 2009.
right.
Yeah.
And that's not a criticism.
That's
but
the
like
thing,
it's
yeah.
astounding.
Absolutely. It is funny just but booting up this game. That first game meant so much to me. I played so much of it. The soundtrack is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. And so booting into this game, it was just tidal wave of emotions for me. Like, and so much of it was just the idea of like, oh, it's more World of Goo, but this is something I have not had since the MCU started in 2008. Like, it's been so damn long. And so just getting blasted by that music again, which I want to talk about the music even more. But then just having the loading screen with like kind of the jokey little comments in the corner. Like I was pumped from that, where it's like the joking things that they're loading into the game where it says like reconstructing everything, sandbagging expectations, stretching images, just a bunch of like random little stuff. It's like, yes, World of Goo, get up and running. And I'm over the moon about my time with this game so far, even if I understand the critique of it's more World of Goo, but it's like, yeah, it's been so damn long and that game freaking ruled. Please feed me more Goo. Jeff, did you play the first World of Goo?
Oh yeah, I've played it many times on many different platforms. It was one of the first digital games that I played, and then kind of like it has. Despite the long hiatus for the series as a total, like that game has followed us on many different platforms, and I'm always like, yeah, I'll play it again on mobile or wherever it goes.
I played it on OnLive.
Whoa, there's a
service
timestamp.
online.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, when I first started it, there definitely is a feeling of, okay, I guess it's just more World of Goo. That's certainly not a bad thing. Some of the initial levels are like, have I played this level? Like they certainly play off of some ideas, and so it's kind of fun in like a nostalgic kind of way to see similar puzzles as the first game. But then it gets much weirder as you continue on, and I think like, as a whole, if you look at like the bulk of the levels, it's like it is more World of Goo. They're doing a lot more with fluid sims and like trying to figure out how to get one like massive lake of sludge into another area, and a lot more like you're using a lot of spouts and things. It's a little less just like, hey, try and build a tall structure that's not going to fall over. And much more like bespoke, interesting, more complex puzzles. And then every time that they introduce a new type of goo ball, that's very fun to figure out how it works. And they come up with a few clever puzzles for it as well. Yeah. But I don't know how far you guys got. When you get to World 4, things go off the rails in such like a weird and bizarre way.
Ooh.
Yeah, don't be fooled by, like the first level or the first world just being like, yeah, okay, it's more goo, but okay, one new goo ball or whatever. That's kind of interesting. Like it gets weirder as you continue.
I'm only in World 2, but at the end of World 1, there is a cutscene including a title card that says 100,000 years later. And that came up on screen, and I just started like cackling. I was just like, yeah,
this is exactly what I want from this story. Yes.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm on World 4, and each chapter break like that just gets more and more bizarre and out there. And
that's exactly what I want for like, why not swing big with these stories? And like, if you haven't played World of Goo, I guess we should do a little table setting, but the basic premise is you're in a world, there's goo balls, and you can attach the goo balls to make structures. They look like toothpick contraptions, buildings, as you're trying to keep it sustainable, as you're trying to build the different areas, but then fluid dynamics come into play. You're flying these things around with balloons. There's a ton of other little gimmicks that keep it more interesting than just a bridge builder, but it is kind of a glorified, funky bridge builder.
Yeah, like the weirdest bridge simulator, and like one puzzle that I got stuck on for a while, but feels emblematic of the sequel is there's one where you're building out a bridge horizontally and you're kind of keeping it up in the air with balloons, and that was a classic level too. They had that you're just trying to get across the other side of the screen, but in this one there's a giant mouth that is just constantly spewing this black goo into it. So it creates kind of this lake because the middle part starts to sag down, and you have to get that, and you have to funnel it into two different areas, one on top of the other. And there are spikes up at the, there's like grinding machines up at the top and spikes down at the bottom. So you're just trying to build out and like not go too far in either of the extremes. But then once you get it built, you have to actually get like this fluid sim to get the actual goo to like get out of where you had been building it to. And so like I started like pinning a bunch of different balloons in one spot to like just kind of raise that a bit, but then when I try to move them over, it would kind of start going back and forth. And then like once you get it out, it's like it started like your entire contraption starts losing a ton of weight because the goo actually has weight, and so it's like shooting out, and I'm trying to manage where the balloons are going, and it's like, you know what, this game, like they actually have come a long way in the last 16 years in terms of what you're doing with these crazy puzzles, and like they get more complex, and sometimes when a level starts, it's like, oh Jesus, you want me to do what?
Right.
But it's never too tedious to keep going.
And it's interesting that you can just skip levels this time around. Is there any downside to skipping a level?
I don't know. I've never actually done it.
They don't get to do it.
Yeah. It's a downside for sure.
I mean, and I feel like we should talk about the tone maybe via the music, because like this is the, if you've never played World of Goo, because I have the same attachment to the soundtrack that you have. Like I had that soundtrack on my iPod Nano, and I would like, I would listen to it all the time. And so like when like a little bit of the like red carpet theme starts playing, I was like, yes. But it's like, it's weirdly melancholy, I feel like, is kind of the unexpected part. Like it's very goofy and very kind of, I don't know, maybe like Tim Burton-y kind of in like how the like human characters are drawn. And this one, it's like the last game was about like the World of Goo company, and this game's kind of bit, at least at the beginning, is like they're now the World of Goo organization, and they're going green, so it's good to buy from them again. Right. Don't worry, everyone. And
everyone in the world's like, yeah, let's go buy some stuff for sustainability.
Yeah, they're like throwing stuff on the ground. But like, yeah, the music is so kind of grand and sometimes somber that it lends the levels this very strange weight, where it just like, there's like one of the kind of main themes of the game is this really kind of compelling, almost military march sounding like da 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 da, and it just like I'm not really someone who just plays puzzle games because I like love puzzles so much, but like there is something about the atmosphere of the World of Goo universe that I just find very compelling. And there's like the sign writer writing signs everywhere, and usually they're just kind of silly, but they also have this air of like loneliness to them, and kind of, you're kind of playing and you're wondering like what is going on in the world that like all this has happened, and it doesn't answer it. It's just, it's a World of Goo, but like maybe it does. But like it really, it has a very unique tone, and I'm so glad that tone is still there, because that's like the thing that I loved so much about the original. Yeah,
and like the original game soundtrack, it's very Danny Elfman, which is great. That's what hooked me in, really. But I love where they've gone so far with the soundtrack of like, okay, in the beginning at least, they're reusing a lot of those themes, but then just putting an extra flavor on them. Like, okay, it's a theme but it's played with like flamenco guitars. There's a lot more just kind of like interesting guitar work happening on top of this, so it just feels like a next evolution of we like Danny Elfman, but we can do more stuff too. Trust us, it all just feels so damn good. And they say it's like there's someone painting the signs. The sign painter is a big character in the first game. And then early on in this game, they're like, I am painting these signs, but I am not the sign painter. And so still seeding that idea of like, we're going someplace with the story. And like, if you've played some of these folks' other games, because it's a whole world of development stuff to track. But it's like the first game, World of Goo, right? It was Kyle Gabler and Ron Carmel, and I believe some other folks. I don't know if it's just the two of them. But then they kind of split their ways as far as I understand it. And so Tomorrow Corporation, then with Kyle Gabler and some other folks, went on and they made like Little Inferno, which is a game that definitely goes places in an unexpected way. And Human Resource Machine, which I wasn't crazy about, but Jeff, you're into that, right? With your programming bend? Yeah. And so it's fun now. This is like the big reunion of like, all right, we're getting the band back together for another World of Goo after all these years. Leo, what do you think, man?
I haven't had time to play it yet, but I'm excited to.
Oh, interesting. I'm curious to see like what this is like for an audience in 2024. Like I'm rooting for this game so hard. I love it so far. And it's like, God, I wonder, will the Tears of the Kingdom's nuts be into this? Because like what defines World of Goo is kind of wonky physics. Physics where you can kind of fudge it and be like, it'll kind of work. Gah! And it kind of feels like a 2D version of some feelings I had playing Tears of the Kingdom, just squirrely ass physics here.
Yeah, I wonder if there are almost certainly people listening to MinnMax who were not born when the first game came out. Right. And it's just kind of like, does it have, for me, it has tremendous kind of nostalgic pull. But yeah, for people who are just seeing this for the same time, World of Goo was like arguably the first indie game that I ever played. If you don't count like Flash games, it was like, this is the first, I didn't buy it on a disc. I downloaded it from the Wii shop. Yeah. And like, there are so many indie games now that look kind of like World of Goo. Like I think it still has a really distinct style, but there's like bridge building simulator. It's like a genre now. And so I wonder if it will kind of blend in more than it did when it was first released and like really had this unique pull. Yeah. So it's on Switch for that classic Nintendo connection because some people played it on Wii. And then it's an Epic Store exclusive, which I wince a little bit like, God, I hope people find it. Please don't forget about World of Goo 2. Also, can we say very strange things about the PC version? It does not have a menu screen. Like, it doesn't have, I was like, oh, where are my settings? So, like, I can adjust resolution. Doesn't have one at all. Right. It was just like, this is a strange thing for a game in 2024 to not have. Yeah, you can pop something out and choose if you want it full screen or not. And that's, like, as deep as you can get for this stuff. Yeah.
Does it run perfectly?
Yeah, so far.
It runs fine. It's goo balls on a screen. It's not too taxing.
You just have the one button, too.
Right.
Like you press the button to hold on to a goo and put it where it is. And like I can't remember the first game 16 years ago if they were this smart about it. But there are certain goo balls that you can pick back up and move. Yeah, so you just pull them right up. And the smart thing about it is that when you grab onto it, if there are any other goo balls on the connectors to it, they'll immediately move off and like go onto the larger network so that you can pull it off safely. But there isn't anything to be like, hey, you random ones, get out of my way. I want to pick up this one.
Which there have been times the first game did have that because it had a whistle that you could attract the goo balls to.
Yes, it's weird. Like it feels very much built for touch screens in 2024, but a little extra would be nice. And so like the first thing I did was like, are there extra buttons that I'm missing? I'll check the configuration and it's like, okay, there's no configuration. I guess this is it. Fair enough.
And maybe they're bracing for it launching on mobile. Seems like one that's kind of ripe for like a Netflix games type of thing. I don't know if they've locked that down yet or what, but yeah. I cannot wait to play more of this game. It made me so damn happy. And I don't know. I'm sorry, nostalgia is still in full effect in this household, but like, damn, it works so well.
Respect.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Leo. Hey, Leo. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Great. Hey, what do you think of SteamWorld Heist 2, Leo?
Oh, love it.
Love it.
I played a few hours of the first one and just kind of fell off, didn't have the hooks to stick in me. But this one, I'm like 12 hours in, still really enjoying it.
Jeez. Geez, what's wrong with you? Yeah, so this is coming out August 8th. This is tactics game. Is that the best way to describe SteamWorld Heist?
Yeah, side-scroller tactics. The core gimmick is ricocheting bullets. So you can have certain guns with aim line where you can see where the trajectory is, or otherwise you'll just get lucky. So you can be really specific and like build out your aim stat and ricochet a bullet around the map 30 times to kill the boss first with a critical hit headshot. Stuff like that's really fun. And you'll also just like miss a guy, but then it bounces off the wall and hits somebody else, and you'll have like fun moments like that.
Yeah. And then Jacob and Jeff, you've been playing it too?
Yeah, I've played probably 10 hours. It's a Steam Deck game, you know, A plus or anything. Yes. Like, I would not play this on somewhere that I couldn't move it around. But yeah, it's great. It's great to just be able to take and play while your partner's watching a rom-com.
I've been playing it on Steam Deck as well, and it is a weird game. I didn't get into the first one much either, and when I was, when I saw the second was coming, I was like, oh yeah, okay, like I enjoy tactics games. This should be interesting, and it's it is turn-based, but it's not like any other turn-based like strategy tactics game I've ever played. It feels strangely straightforward for what it is, in that like most of the time you just enter a room, there are a couple guys to kill, and it's not particularly difficult to kill them, but it like it's almost like the core loop of it, and what makes it fun is just building out these characters and upgrading them and getting different weapons. And like the job classes are very different. And so it's just like, we'll give you a lot of ways to do what is still a relatively simple task.
But yeah, the cross job stuff is really big. And I think it's the first time I've really understood jobs in an RPG, not being a big RPG guy, playing the Yakuza games, of course. But it's like, it's a small scale version of it. So you're getting up the early levels pretty fast, and you're really incentivized to switch jobs. And then it's easy to have a bunch of meaningful skills crossover, having like there's a buff in the engineer where it increases your aura, which is a stat in the game for your area of effect around your teammates. And you can have that boost the distance that covers and bring that to another character who maybe gets like a buff to damage for people within their aura. Or having somebody trained as a sniper so that they're better at aiming in their other classes than those classes would be by themselves. And it's like fewer levels, fewer skill points, so it's easier to keep track of all that stuff. And same with the progression too. You have a start with a gun that does 2 damage, and you upgrade to a gun that does 3 damage. Like, it's all easy to keep track of. It feels almost like a good beginner's tactics game. Yeah,
really small level, like attack amounts and hit point amounts. Like, yeah, your base gun does like 2 damage, but a lot of enemies just have 2 or 3 hit points, and it's like, oh, okay. Like this is not a chip damage off of a boss, with like 300 health or whatever. But that's been interesting. The overworld stuff is weird, because
this is worth talking about, because I played a lot of the first game, and like the overworld stuff is new to the SteamWorld Heist world, and it is, I don't know how I feel about it.
So it's kind of like they're going for like an XCOM thing of like the tactics battles, and then kind of.
No, it's pretty unique, but it's like, it's literally just as you're moving around the open world, there are enemy ships around. It's a pirate conceit, and you're fighting other ships, and you gradually get more guns on your sides and in front and stuff, and you have this little cone that you just kind of have to move so enemies get caught in the cone, and then it fires, and then you kind of kite them while it recharges. And it's really simple at first and really easy, but it does get more complex later on.
Well, there's that, which is, you're doing like very little ship battles, but also the levels of the game are positioned around this kind of open ocean, and after any of your squad does a level, they are taken out of rotation until you like go back to a home base and sleep, and then the next day they're all replenished. And so when you start out and you only have like 2 or 3 people, you can only do 1 mission, and then you have to go back and sleep. And then eventually you have like 5 or 6 people, and so you can do multiple missions. But it's still this extra step that I don't really enjoy, which it does feel like they're trying to do the the XCOM, like there's the active tactics part and then the at home getting stronger part. But like a lot of times I'm like, I wish I could just keep doing the combat, and instead you have to like get back in your submarine and drive home to a little bar and like climb down a ladder and sleep. And it takes like 45 seconds, but it is like, I don't enjoy it in the same way that I enjoy building out a base in XCOM, because there's nothing to do. It's just like, this is a game where you just spend a lot of time clicking through dialogue that you don't care about. Unless other people do care about. But it's like I really have to like talk to this bartender every day to just say sleep, and then just so I can keep kind of doing the game that I enjoy. It seems like they don't want you to just run through, 20 levels in a row of the tactics. But that's kind of what I want to do. I'm not that invested in any of the other stuff. It's like, it's interesting, but it's not fun to me.
That's totally fair. Yeah, if it's taking up, if you're not vibing with it, it takes up a fair amount of time. But to me, there's some interesting depth in the decisions you're making, because as you return each day, you have a daily finite currency to spend based on how well you did, that you can buy these finite items that get taken off the board as you purchase them. So there's a little bit of risk reward in doing more missions, but if you get caught out and killed by a ship, like, you lose your daily currency. And picking who to send on each mission. Some missions can only have 2 people, so it's like which 2 would pair together, but then it only leaves me with this 3 for this other mission. Would that work? And there's a little bit of decision making, because you also get more of that currency based on how well you do. And if you have done really well, but now you're in a risky part of the map, there's some thrill in getting back home there so you can spend your currency. For me, there's been an interesting enough variety in the way things go for me to not be bored by that.
Yeah. So overall, liking it a lot, loving it. Trying to get a read on where we're at for SteamWorld Heist 2.
Liking it a lot.
Liking it a lot.
Yeah, I'll say I like it a lot.
Jeff, I'm putting a ring on.
I'm kind of, yes, in that camp. It is. I think I'm a little closer to Jacob on the overworld stuff, but I do like having that weird, also a very finite, like, currency that you're getting from doing missions, where it's like, all right, this time I got 5 coins. Like, okay, I can spend 2 on like, and get 100 gallons of water, which, takes quite a while longer if you're just grinding out pirate ship battles, which that part does just feel very wonky and feels like a mini game in something completely different. It feels like it should be a mini game in Skull and Bones, frankly.
Don't you utter those words.
A game that costs $200 million.
Yes. Yeah. But then the core tactics is really fun. And every time you land a headshot and a robot just completely explodes, like, that is just satisfying gameplay.
Can I ask y'all, here's another pet peeve I have, and I'm largely positive on this game, but there are things from the first game that I thought they would fix and they haven't. And one of those is doors, where, like, the whole game is kind of based around going through doors, and instead of like the fog of war that they have in XCOM, they're just like, if you haven't opened the door to this room, you can't see into it. And once you do open the door, the enemies all activate. But one of the weird things is your movement in the, like, often you have to do things in a certain number of turns. It's like, I have 5 turns to do this. But tactically, going through a door uses one of your moves, and you can't see what's on the other side of it. And so kind of the only tactical thing that makes sense is to pile up all your guys on a side of the door and then all go through at once, which just takes time that then you're supposed to be, like, not using. And this was a frustration in the first game. And I just, like, I'm not a game designer. I don't know how you could kind of better do it. But it is weird that it's like the primary thing that controls the pacing of the levels is doors, and I find them kind of frustrating.
Yeah, you always have to burn a turn to move everyone close to the door, and then like, depending on how long it takes, like, if you can get everyone to the door on one turn, fine. Otherwise, you kind of have to stagger it, and then everybody just has to wait at the door to start a new turn in order to just open it, because the enemies will just, they're ready to attack you as soon as you open that door and get into position. And it is annoying. I don't know why the solution isn't just if you open a door, just start a new turn. Like I've clearly killed everyone in this area. I'm opening a door, just like refresh me and we'll go from there.
It's honestly so gratifying to hear both of you having the same experience, because it really is the only way to play. And I think like with the alarm system, maybe they're trying to give you multiple decisions, because like the longer you wait, the more enemies spawn. So it's like, do I run through now before more enemies spawn and it's a little riskier, or do I do this wait turn thing? But it's like, it's not an interesting decision when both outcomes feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. SteamWorld Heist 2, August 8th from Thunderful over there. It's on every system known to man. Tactics fans, run, don't walk.
Feels great on controller. Great controller tactics game.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and I will say, if you do die, like I haven't had too many mission failures, but if you die during a mission, they just like rewind 2 turns and they're like, okay, you can start from here again.
Yeah, you can back out of a mission at any time and there's no cost. It is not XCOM. Like, it's very forgiving. You can't have people permanently die.
Yeah.
It's nice.
That's cool. Leo, what the hell is Once Human?
Such a good question.
Thank you.
Once in a while, when a Chinese company loves money very much, they try to make a game that is all games in one, and this is one of those. Mostly it's the Division kind of style, almost, at least in the running, crouching, shooting, loot shooter type deal, but it's also trying to be like base building Rust almost. There's PvE servers and there's also PvP servers where you're like intended to go destroy each other's bases. And all of these systems are really built out. There's a lot to all of them. It's just one of those games that is just dwarfing you with content as soon as you get into it, but you're also moving through it really fast. And I spent so long just at my base, just building it up and leveling up from doing different base building challenges. Had a lot of fun doing that.
Were you sold on it because of the reaction stream during SGF, and it's from Starry Studio and you were drinking a Starry at the time and you would not stop talking about it?
It created a special connection. It's just right game, right time for like, I'm in the mood to base build, but also be able to go do shooting like when I want to. Sometimes it's appealing to have one game to go in and you can do all these different things and progress this one character.
Right.
I guess that appeals to me. But it's also an MMO, a full MMO, tons of other people, and there's benefits and negatives to that. MMOs to me are like just never going to look and feel as good as a regular game.
Yeah.
And accepting that, I think this feels and looks better than most, but still not as good as a real game. But the social features are really cool. Like literally I picked a server kind of at random, but it was like crafting focused PvE. And I just land in this area that is player bases as far as the eye can see. I am such a sucker for player housing, and I tend to try out MMOs when I know that's a thing. But sometimes it's like you have to bid on a deed or get it in the lottery or something because there's like finite space. But this game has a ton of servers, so they aren't too worried about that, I guess. And you can kind of just plant your flag anywhere and have this set place where people can come visit you. And there's also the note system like Dark Souls, except there's absolutely no limits on it. You can type anything, you can take pictures and post pictures.
Weird.
And that creates like so much life to the world, knowing everybody has been everywhere. And there's these signposts, of course, like Dark Souls, there's a chest on the roof, but there's also people being more coy than that, like check the lab for a secret prize or whatever, or less coy where it's, here's the pictures I took in photo mode of the ladder you need to climb up to get to this chest, because everybody's trying to like farm likes on these posts. And of course, since there's no limits, the first quest giver you ever meet, Mary, you talk to her and you're like, oh, there's a little note on the ground here, let me check it out. And it says, and the title is Mary Can Get It. And the photos are a picture of her face and a picture of her ass. And it has thousands of likes.
Smart.
And that's just where players will go. And that's the meta right now for likes. But I hope people take it a more ambitious direction for how limitless it is. I tried leaving a note at my neighbor's house because I was like, my house is kind of looking like theirs just because we both have the early stuff. So I'm just going to leave a note that says, hey, I'm your neighbor. My name's Tonka. I'm not trying to jock your style. It's all I can do right now. Hope to change it up in the future. Great to meet you. And I like attached an emote to it of me like humbly bowing.
P.S. Your wife can get it. I've been looking through the windows. Here's some pictures.
Sorry, it's the meta. But that stuff is really fun. There's been some fun, surprising notes. There was like a graveyard by the side of a church where every grave had somebody leave a different note on it. And I checked one. It was like, my wife died. She's buried here. One like is one prayer. Which is like a joke one.
Oh my God.
But there's also like fully leaning into the lore. Like I found like, scientist's log. We found this anomaly in this area, and then it's a picture of it, and stuff like that is really cool. So it's interesting having a note system with the limits taken off for the benefits and the negatives of that.
Yeah, why not for this type of absurd game? The free-to-play stuff, nasty?
Presumably.
Okay.
It's all cosmetic so far that I've seen. Like all these games, it gives you a ton of levels, makes you feel great when you start, which is still where I'm at, like 6 or 7 hours in. And you know it's going to slow down, and you're going to be more tempted to buy whatever you can, if there are those options, which I'm really not sure. But the other thing is controversial about this game is it's going to wipe your progress every 6 weeks.
What?
So a lot of people aren't getting into it because of that, which is fair. There's certain things, there's currencies and blueprints and your house and stuff will carry over. But like level progress resets every 6 weeks. And I guess the idea is more common times where you can say, hey, friend, come play this with me. We're all on the same page here.
Yeah, that's
versus everybody
interesting.
getting left behind immediately.
Try it. Throw it in the mix. See how it does. That's a wild idea.
Yeah, and I'll see how I feel after the wipe, and if it totally breaks my momentum, or if I think it is a cool idea. But yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, it's got a lot of reviews on Steam. Like, it seems like people are diving into it, but
again, it's every game for everybody.
Yeah.
It's like if you don't care about the building at all, it's a totally fine loot shooter that you can play with friends.
Once Human from NetEase is the name of that thing. Ooh, do you hear a rustle in the hedgerow, y'all? Don't be alone now. Jeffem, thank you for being here, but we got stars to meet. Anything you want to say before you...
Oh, okay.
Anything you want to get off your chest?
No.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jeffem.
It was fun podcasting with you guys.
It's always a pleasure.
too.
I am glad.
I'm gonna go play World of Goo.
Yes.
And then Steam Heist 2. Mm-hmm. A little markedly below that.
Okay.
And then maybe check out Once Human while I wait. Cautiously optimistic for Star Wars Outlaws.
Now that's a podcast recap. Okay.
Jeff, make sure to listen to the next section. I have another good game.
Sweet.
I'm in server PE-00113 on Once
Love
Human.
it. I'm gonna build right next to you. I'm gonna take over your land, Leo. I'm sorry.
Respect.
The stars are here, everybody. Haley DeBoom, welcome back to the MinnMax Show.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, you were just on Bonus Pod not too long ago, diving into the weeds on some of your history with animation at ILM and stuff like that, with Haley McLean and talking about Haley Squared and all that good stuff. But it's been a while since you've been on the main show?
Yeah, it's been I think literally 7 months.
Oh, no.
Which feels like a lifetime, but
Yeah.
so stoked to be back. Yeah, especially with truly an all-star cast. So, yeah.
Because Jacob Geller and Leo Vader are here. No, because Lucy
Thank
James
you.
is joining us. Lucy, thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be. I'm trying to think of the last time I was on something MinnMax. Was it? It can't have been Trivia Tower, because if it has,
It probably was Trivia Tower. I meant to look before this, but I don't think you've ever been on the main show. I think it was Trivia Tower. Were you on Trivia Tower All-Stars, like the cross-outlet competition thing for charity we did a couple times?
I was watching and I was in the chat, but I remember doing Trivia Tower with you. It might have been around 2021.
I remember you were really stressed about your visa at the time, and maybe that's
2021.
The last, okay, all right, there we go, got it. Well, hey, congratulations! You just celebrated 10 years at GameSpot. That's wild.
Yeah, I know. It feels sometimes like 2 years, and then sometimes it feels like 10 years, but not in a bad way. Just in terms of comfort and knowing the ins and outs of how everything works. But yeah, 10 years. Ooh.
The nice exhale. I know this is you probably don't feel it too much on the inside and stuff like that, but from the outside, just being a fan of games media, you have become a real staple in the games press. You're a little bit everywhere. Everyone's always happy to see you. Do you feel accomplished? Tell us, please, that you feel accomplished at this point, because you've truly done it.
First of all, it's very nice of you to say that. Thank you very much. I will write that in my little gratitude notes thing that I've been keeping on my phone.
Yes.
It's honestly quite difficult because I'm very British. And I know we will talk about the ins and outs of being British later on, but I'm in the middle of doing stuff for my visa, and so I have to basically tell the American government that I'm accomplished.
Ooh.
And also you have to do it in a way that the American government would understand when it comes to things like games media and content creation. And so it's weird because I know that I've done a lot and I'm very proud of what I've done. But then when you kind of have to tally it all up and show the government, it doesn't feel like that.
Right.
Like at one point they were like, oh, do you get a high salary? And I was like, nope.
And I'm sure from their point of view, it's like, well, everyone's on YouTube. Like YouTube presence doesn't really mean that much. So you add up your views and be like, yeah, but government, you care about those clicks, right? Like, what do you do?
So for me, I'm very fortunate because I did a lot of television before I moved. And so that's the kind of thing that looks more quote unquote legit to them. But also, yeah, like download numbers, video views, working with companies. Like, if I said that I did something with PlayStation or EA, then that's gone on.
That's solid.
It's a mortifying experience and I can't wait for it to be over. But TLDR, thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Say nice things.
Okay, I'm happy how this all worked out because Haley is like, hey, I have a gap in my schedule. I can come on. And Lucy just wrapped up her time at Comic-Con. Hey, Lucy.
Oh, did you go to the Xbox
Same
one?
shield cup. Yeah, look at that. Okay, great.
Do you want to know the wild way that I do coffee in the morning?
Yeah.
So I make a full French press and then I have an Xbox and a PlayStation.
And
so you will see me swap over halfway through, because I drink. I like to drink pretty slowly. So yep.
And the weird thing is they're each filled with the tears of the fanboys of the alternates console of choice. So it's funny how that all works. But no, you were just at Comic-Con and you did you hosted and moderated the Dragon Age panel, which I want to dive into because Haley DeBoom reached out recently and she's like, I think for the rest of the year, I think Dragon Age is the thing I'm most hyped about. And I feel like we have a weird vacuum of Dragon Age love at MinnMax. Like we have 9 people here at MinnMax. I don't think anyone's like gaga for Dragon Age. And I know we're the outliers here, but tell me if this is just being too immersed in talking to the MinnMax crew over and over again. But based on the demo that I saw at SGF, I think Dragon Age is looking really great. Like I'm really feeling optimistic about it. And it feels like there's a lack of hype for how good this thing could be out there. Is that my naive perspective coming from 2 big Dragon Age fans perspective here?
I'm really hyped about it, but I think it's in such a tricky place. Like MinnMax is been 5 years, right? It's half the age of the development of this game in some form.
Right.
It's been 10 years. It's been X number of actual people and teams and creatives working on it. It's a lore that goes really deep, really dark, does a lot of different things. And they pop up with a new name. I think they should drop the, but that's neither here nor there. They pop up with a new name, cleaner. Right? All the fan videos just say Veilguard, and you guys are dedicatedly saying the Veilguard, and you're like, okay, well, anyway, not a good place to start nitpicking. But I think it's really tricky to have 10 years of history. You got to bring all these new people in. You've got a whole new system. 10 years of games has happened, so you want to adapt to what has changed with games. And then you also have to honor old things. Like it's an impossible game to expect to knock out of the park for everybody.
Right.
So I personally have been kind of backing away from a lot of the kind of content and sort of things they've been talking about with it because the game will just have to stand on its own for what it is. And then there'll be 49,000 think pieces on it and all that. But so I'm very tentatively so excited just to be back in the world to see what they're doing.
It's not only 10 years, but the Trespasser DLC effectively ended on a cliffhanger. And also, so you have to kind of honor that for the people who played it at the time, plus introducing those stakes to a whole new generation of people who will be coming in, and this will be their first Dragon Age. I think the thing that I've seen mostly in looking at the subreddit and looking at tweets and stuff, because when I go on Twitter, it has identified that Dragon Age is a topic for me. So I get served so many. It's Dragon Age and Interview with the Vampire. And I'm very happy with the life choices that have led me here. But I think at this point, people just are desperate for the release date. And I think once that's locked and once that's been released, I think the vibe will change. I think I personally really dug the gameplay, because Dragon Age games as well, they change so drastically. It's not like Mass Effect where it's very similar systems that just get streamlined. Between Dragon Age games, things change very, very drastically, and I'm very interested to see how this all kind of coalesces together. And also, I am kind of desperate to know. They're saying all the right things for me.
Right.
So I'm very excited.
That's the thing, is like, I know they had their attempt at making, kind of a live service multiplayer Dragon Age, and that was rebooted. And it seems like there's a couple other reboots along the way before they changed the name, which feels like another small reboot and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's just like their messaging, I feel like, is on point. Like, is there anything that the fan base is disappointed by? It just feels like a big budget single player RPG, right? You can play as other races. I remember that was the huge thing coming out of Dragon Age 2, is everyone was up in arms. We're like, if you can't play as Canary, what are the...
Nailed it.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
Canary.
Thank you. I'm going to be so pissed. But it seems like this is it. And like seeing that SGF demo, it just reminded me of like, oh yeah, BioWare, like they can make some big action set pieces. The opening of this game is a big action set piece. And for all the belly aching you can do about Anthem, you forget that like Anthem looked really damn good. It was really an impressive game technically on a lot of fronts. And it feels like this BioWare is a continuation of that in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, because when Inquisition came out, that was their first foray into using Frostbite, which was a very different engine. Like back in the day, wasn't necessarily built for RPGs. And then for BioWare, they did Inquisition into Anthem, I believe Mass Effect Andromeda too.
Yeah.
And then, just kind of honing that and improving and getting familiar with the tools. Like what I saw as well in that demo, it looks so impressive, and I just want to play it.
Yeah.
To see if that is not just contained to the first hour of the game.
Yeah.
But even without saying anything or spoiling, because I know a lot of people have different sensitivities to spoilers, but they were making some big swings just at the end of that first hour for long-term fans. And even I think if you were kind of fresh to it and you kind of ended the prologue there, I think you would be dying to see where it goes next. So I'm very excited about it. Obviously, you can take my opinion with a pinch of salt. I just worked with the devs and everything, but I've been a long-term fan, and so I'm excited for it to actually come out.
Yeah, I think it's a good angle. Like even if you aren't fully invested in the series, I think you just feel it. Like in the beginning of the game, having Solus there, seemingly being the big bad, getting set up as the big bad, but like having that weight of that he's gone on adventures with other people you're already interacting with. Like he has this history, and it makes it feel more cool than just, here's a bad guy who flew in out of nowhere and he did something bad, the end. Like to have somebody fly in and they're the bad guy, but they're like, trust me, I know we've worked a lot together and I know what I'm doing here. Just have faith in me. Like, I think that's a really cool pitch. And it has me feeling optimistic about like just the storytelling out of the gate here compared to Andromeda, where that big bad was truly the worst villain I've played in AAA or played against in a AAA game for a very long time.
I don't even remember who the Andromeda.
It was just some stupid evil-looking alien who's like, "You're nobody. You can't defeat me." Archon, is that what it was?
He had the hole in the head, right?
Yeah,
not in the head, but like a big circle above his head or something.
Yeah, he was just an absolute zero, and he made me so mad. But Haley, did you learn anything from the Comic-Con panel? They haven't released it all, but like, are there reports of all that stuff there?
I was just about to say, I wanted to be respectful of the fact that they're going to release like the actual panel, but there was a couple of very dutiful fans on Twitter doing recaps and short clips and stuff. And it's definitely a little bit of the like, we're excited for this game that's not out yet. You know, that kind of thing. Okay. But there was some really cool tidbits specifically about characters. Dragon Age is all about characters and your companions. And it's really clear that the voice actors that were there really understand that and have been living these characters for years and years and years, and are super excited for the fans to actually interact with them. And knowing the Dragon Age franchise, your interpretation of a character or your experience with a character is going to be vastly different than someone else's if you bring them along and experience different moments with them and stuff.
Right.
So it's very clear the actors are very excited to have different aspects of their character be revealed over time. And they were very, again, from the little pieces I saw, kind of had like their core aesthetic, and then, ooh, but maybe this happens, and ooh, maybe that happens. So things to entice is always fun.
Even from working on the kind of run of show from the panel, there were things that were originally in there that have been, we took out just for fear of spoilers, and I can say that some of the character things are really cool, and I'm really excited for.
Okay.
But I don't think, so I think Zach, Jessica, and Nick, Allie's obviously had this experience from being in Mass Effect and Dragon Age. I don't think they're ready for how much their lives are going to change, for how excited BioWare fans get for companions, because like you said, they are the heart of the games. Allie was very much trying to warn them, like in a nice way. She was like, make sure you've got prints of your Dragon Age characters and stuff. Like people, and there was a really nice moment at the, so Nick plays Emmerich, the necromancer, and he was talking about like the relationship with death that he's trying to portray through that character. And someone came up and said, hey, my dad just died. So this was I really enjoyed hearing what your perspective was on how the game is going to tackle things like death. And so at the end, everyone was kind of like, wow, that was such a beautiful moment. And Ali was like, people are going to come up to you and say that you helped them through the darkest times. And it's always going to be incredible to hear, but it will always get you emotional. And it was like really nice things like that she was saying. And so, yeah, I'm excited.
Have you interacted much with Mark Dara? Like, I think that's such a wild journey that he was the producer for the Dragon Age series, and then he left and he started his own YouTube channel, which I enjoyed a lot. And then they pulled in the old timer. And it's a little bit like what Blizzard's doing now, a little bit of like, no, look, we have some classic Blizzard talent here still. I feel like this was kind of their nod to the old fans. Like, look, we have the old producer. We dragged him back to make sure Veilguard's on the right track.
I never met Mark Dara, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, I forgot that they'd brought him back. I mean, obviously you kind of can't really not talk about the fact that they did lay off a lot of veteran BioWare talent.
Yeah.
And, like Mary Kirby and a lot of other writers who've been there for a very long time. And so that also must be, I mean, not to get too deep into the layoff stuff, especially given that we're recording this the day that Bungie just... I guess that's now 25% of Bungie gone within the last year. Yeah. Oh, did you know this?
I did not see this. No.
This happened while we were recording.
Yeah, they just cut another 220 roles eliminated, representing roughly 17%.
Whoa.
And so and I mean, for any gaming project, if you have been in the weeds, like just working on it nonstop, pouring your heart and soul into it, especially on a game like Dragon Age that people love so much and are so passionate about. Not that they're not passionate about other games, but I think BioWare games have their own, like, Baldur's Gate's definitely there too, right? Where it's like just people latch onto these characters so much, and then having them out in the public and you not being a part of that and celebrating that, because it's like seeing your ex out in public. And so, yeah. Don't know where I was going with that, but
no, it's brutal for sure. But I'm amazed by like some of the messaging. It seems like from BioWare. I'm always obsessed with developer publisher messaging, but it's interesting. I saw interviews where they're like, after some great big RPGs in 2023, like this can be the next one for you. You can jump into this. Hey, Baldur's Gate fans, jump into this. I know it's cheeky and cheesy. I am stunned they didn't like open the trailer, like the big SGF trailer the trailers have done from the studio that brought you Baldur's Gate 2. I know it's weird and you'd have to like really think about it, but like get that front and center, everybody. It's weird not to lean into that, even though it's, there's an asterisk there. It's a confusing lineage for all this stuff, but it's important to know that like this is the same studio that made the last Baldur's Gate, if you care.
Brought you a Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder, I mean, Larian owns the Baldur's Gate license now, or Hasbro, or
Hasbro, I think. And Larian said they're washing their hands of it, right? They're like, all right, we're moving on from this thing entirely. So yeah, you think they'd have a nod in there or something. But all right, so feeling optimistic. Haley and Lucy for Veilguard?
Big time.
Big time.
Yep.
Okay. Haley, it's all coming down to you. You got to jump in when that game comes out and be the Dragon Age expert, and all the fans are going to point to you. So I hope you're ready.
Great. I am definitely prepared for that.
It'll be awesome. But as we like to say to Haley DeBoom every time she's on, thank goodness you're here, everybody. Okay.
Hey.
Lucy, I'm so excited to talk to you and everybody else about this game. This is a game that I feel like you were calling your shot a while ago, Lucy. Like, this is going to be good on the excellent Friends Per Second podcast. I feel like you're trying to like point the finger towards, thank goodness you're here, everybody. This game is going to be so cool. And now it's out there and everyone's like, wait, Lucy was right? What is going on? She does deserve her visa, or however you phrase that. What is thank goodness you're here?
From me? You want me?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah, take it away.
Thank goodness you're here is I believe their marketing is calling it a comedy slapformer. So the only two things you can do in the game are jump and slap. And you play as a salesman who goes to a fictional northern town called, is it Barnsworth?
Yeah.
And you need a meeting with the mayor, but he's a little bit busy. So you go out into the town and you help people with the very random and quirky requests that they have. My big description of it is it's just so British.
Yeah.
And I'm interested. Have you all played it?
Yeah. Okay, so
Does
Leo
it
and I.
translate?
Yeah. I'm sure there's so much. I mean, even out of the gate, I forget what it is. They have some option that has some slang or some terminology. I'm like, I don't know what this means, but it's setting the tone for like, this is going to have some phrases you might not understand, but it's the absurdity translates. And then maybe every 10 minutes, there's a line of like, I don't know exactly what that is, but it's kind of, that adds to the charm of it. That's fun, you know?
Yeah, it's so over the top, but there's like a quaintness to the small town you're in, and keep exploring and keep getting more like experience and attachment to. That feels very genuine for sure.
It's got to be just a weird nostalgic blast for you though, Lucy, of like, oh, this just reminds me of home.
Yes. No, the whole time I was playing it, because this accent that you're hearing right now is not my real accent. I am actually from the north of England. I'm from the northeast of England, so I'm from Newcastle. But I did go to university in Leeds, which is it's near York. It is in Yorkshire, and kind of near the places where the developers are definitely looking for inspiration.
Okay.
And so, like Yorkshire, Manchester, I don't know. So you know how people have, is it synesthesia, where they see colors when they listen to music? When I think of Yorkshire, I just have, I don't know, I can see the red brick. I can hear kind of a weird amalgamation of all the accents and stuff coming together. It's very difficult to explain. It's a very lovely vibe. I don't know.
And this game just captures it.
It captures it beautifully, because there's a thing, I'm speaking from the northeast of England, where it's like everyone knows everyone, because, you know, the UK is so small and we have so many different accents. Like you can fit all of the UK, I believe, within California. So imagine multiple different accents just from a place that's a couple of miles down the road from another place.
Right.
But yeah, everyone knows everyone. Everyone knows everyone's business. Things that might seem quaint are actually just like, I don't know, ingrained, and just, you know, they have, Meg's Buttery Goods, for example.
Yeah.
Mother Meg's Buttery Goods. Oh, like back home, there's the potato and egg shop. Or there is a funeral parlor called Go As You Please. And in the window, there is a replica of Tutankhamun's sarcophagus. Like, so there is like an absurdity to British culture that is, I think, very accurately reflected there. And also just, I don't know, it's very weird saying this to Americans. We swear so liberally and from a very young age. And there are things in there like calling someone a nonce. And if you're not sure what that is, Google it. But don't call someone it unless you're British and you can get away with it. I had that conversation with an American friend, and he was like, what if I replaced calling people a chucklehead with calling people a nonce? And I was like, do not do that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
All right, quick Google.
that's right.
This seems important. Yeah, it is fun. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that are charming about this game and fun. But like one of them is just like how your size is changing all the time. You're just like going to one area and you're like a tiny little guy, then you're this huge guy in another area, whatever. It's just all for the sake of comedy as you're exploring this charming town and stuff. But I love like you go inside like the home of like some rats, and they just have a poster on the wall and it says, "Stop the stigma, wherever." That one really got me. Yeah. It's good stuff.
I appreciate what you said about the swearing liberally and like the crudeness being accurate, because you kind of are face to face with that when you play this game. It's like different standards for crudeness almost, just from how cute it looks. It's so cartoony and well animated and beautiful, and it looks like a kid's thing, and then it just at points it randomly gets very adult in very successfully funny ways, I find, but just in a way that's like, different standards over there, different expectations. There's a character who's on the toilet, and it's just like, we've seen 1,000 ways to not show someone's genitals were on the toilet. That's like a classic move. There's movies have figured it out, cartoons have figured it out, but you just see his dong when he's sitting on the toilet.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess that's not a big deal over there.
Jordan Midler from VGC played it, I think the day after I'd done it. He just said, "Is that a penis?" And I was like, "What are you? I need context, please." But yeah, like some of the graffiti where was it Graham Shags Moss, the shop being called Price Shaggers. That's just so. I hate that the only way I can describe it is just being so quintessentially. I can't speak British.
Yeah.
British.
Yeah. No, it's perfect.
I mean, with this and Still Wakes the Deep within a span of like 2 months, is this like the best period ever for like United Kingdom swearing? Because it's like,
these are the glory days.
That game
baby.
also has words that as an American I cannot say, but they just use them so liberally.
So my step grandmother, I guess if you want to say that, was from Glasgow. So yeah, we definitely heard some more of the some more colourful language than I think just like your everyday, like some swears in the UK are definitely just decommissioned to being, like a regular run of the mill word that you would use. And then in Still Wakes the Deep, it was like, oh, we're just gonna say the C word.
A lot.
Okay, so the game itself, Panic is the publisher. Cole Sepper is the developer who made a game in 2019. It's called Good Time Garden. And I completely missed it, but I looked it up on Steam, like, oh, this feels like the perfect precursor to what Thank Goodness You're Here is. But so Panic is the publisher, and that seems like the closest comparison I can make is it's like an Untitled Goose Game where you're going around and helping people, or it's like a simple adventure game where all you can do is jump and slap and there's no inventory or anything. It's an odd game. Leo, how would you describe the gameplay here and like what's compelling about it?
Sometimes you would be forgiven for thinking it feels like an adventure game in the puzzles you're doing.
Yeah.
But you so rarely get stuck on one. It's really, to me, feels like just an interactive cartoon.
Yes.
Almost Adult Swim style. That's selling it short, but as a quick connector. And like the interactivity is just another mechanism to be funny with. There's all you do is jump and slap, but there's also weird specific moments where you have to figure out how you interact with it. And it's like just another tool to tell a joke that, again, it's so hard to play this game next to my sleeping fiance and like stifle my reaction. I've laughed and had bigger reactions than that so many times. I wrote down a moment for moment of the year in this game already.
Ooh, all right. I love it. Yeah, it is such a wild thing. Like you mentioned that playing the cartoon thing, I think that's the easy comparison. It's like, oh, it's kind of Adult Swim style humor if you want to be simplistic and boil it down. But
Smiling Friends even specifically.
Yeah, but I think the thing that kills me is just like, I love the way it looks. I love the stupid main character, just this little businessman with yellow skin running around, but just how smooth it all is. It's just like, it's a nice marker of, okay, 2024, game animation can look like this. It can just 100% look like you're playing a cartoon. And it's all so seamless. It feels rock solid. You don't feel like it's a video game. You're not seeing a bunch of pixel distortion or anything anywhere. It just feels like an interactive cartoon. And it's a miracle that they pulled it off as smoothly as they did here, And
as an outsider, like the part of the presentation is not always, but sometimes when you leave a scene, it'll hang on the shot beforehand for like 3 seconds before it goes. And maybe it's hiding a load. Maybe that's just for mood. But something about that does feel dryly British. Just like you leave the scene behind, but you hang on it for a second and like aren't in any rush to get through it. I don't know. It helps the pace of it.
No, I think you're right, because it is also one thing in British humor as well is that we also love to repeat jokes and kind of like, really run them into the ground in some way, but it was always funny. And I think the game definitely counts on that way. Either you'll see, the girl who's doing her license learning how to drive. But I think they also use those jokes in a really smart way, either to get you from A to B, like going down the chimney and ruining that guy's day every single time, or the way that they use it to block you off, to force you to go and do something else. And so sometimes as you're going through the town, this girl will still be, bless her, learning how to drive, and she blocks off one route, so you have to go and maybe find another one. And so I think they're using all of these really funny motifs to keep you going through the game, but also it's the running gag, and none of them feel like overplayed. They all just like, I'm excited to see what the next level, because it's so absurd. I'm just like, oh, where are they going to take this next? Where are they going to take this next? Where are they going to take this next?
And part of learning what the game is, it's like you're kind of going through the same areas. And for a minute, sometimes you're like, oh, really? Do I have to go through here? What if it's the wrong way and I shouldn't actually? But you always are. And there's always new gags that make it worthwhile.
Yep, totally. Yeah, I mean, Lucy, did you say that this is your goatee at this point?
Yep.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
It comes down to Dragon Age Veilguard versus Thank Goodness You're Here at the end of the year for Lucy. That's a cool...
I was going to say, I'm trying to think, like, I mean, it was either that or Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Right, okay, there's three.
DLC specifically.
I'm not going to rag on that game. I mean, actually, looking at, I've got my little list of stuff I've finished this year. I mean, I don't know, you got things like Indica up there.
Yeah.
I just played, I'm really excited for Spilled and Phoenix Springs, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, but honestly, I don't think any of them have just captured something and have just been so confident in its execution as Thank Goodness You're Here. And I'm so glad. As soon as, because I've been telling people to play it, and then as soon as I got the first, oh my God, I love this text, I was like, okay, thank God, this is going to be more of the conversation. I didn't want to it would just be me in the corner, just on like all the British press just being like, oh, game is so good, you have to play it. I'm really glad that I've had a bunch of Americans tell me that they also love it, because I think I'm in a place now where, don't get me wrong, still love AAA games, but I'm here for weirder, shorter, smaller experiences that are executed very confidently.
Yeah.
I feel that. And I was thinking playing it is a weird one to recommend. It is not anything like any of the genres I know which friends of mine like, or like how to sell them on it. But it is like, I don't know, if you like funny cartoons, how could you not like it?
Totally.
I feel like I could recommend it just purely on that.
Yeah, I know Haley McClain is gaga over it, and she's a cartoon fiend. So it's like, all right, it's landing with just adults who love really funny cartoons. And if you think walking around a British town and slapping a bunch of people as they sound absurd talking back to you, not because of the accent, Lucy, because of the silly voices, just to be very clear.
It's fine. It's fine. That's the thing. I purposefully kept my real accent away from all of you in case you took the mick out of me. No,
what is this?
I know you wouldn't.
It was the idea of you hiding your accent. What are you talking about? What's going on over there?
Because I used to work, the place where I used to work, they were like, people are not going to understand you, so you need to speak more received pronunciation. But now I've lived in America for 6 years, so my accent is a mess.
So this is naive, forgive me. Do you think about it? There was a period in your time where you had to think about changing your accent? I don't think I've ever had to try to change my accent in my life.
Ben, this happens with Americans all the time. Maybe it's just not you Midwest boy. Like, Southerners constantly have to like dampen their Southern accent because it makes them sound like dumb.
That's interesting. I mean, I do notice when I go home and talk to like family and stuff, like my Minnesotan accent comes out a bit more. But I feel like it's just a reflex. I think I'd be delighted if it came out more on podcasts and stuff. But it's just, I don't know, something about just the mood that you're in and who you're talking to. You can say more Minnesotan things.
Yeah. That's the thing where it's, I think an American accent, I've said this before, I think it's my palate. I think an American accent is easier for my palate, because if I was speaking complete received pronunciation, BBC, newsreader, that is a lot of effort. And so you can actually hear, I'm kind of northern because I'm lazy with my consonants and I mispronounce vowels sometimes. And then when it all comes together, that's a Geordie accent.
Oh boy, that's cool. That's cool.
You have to say E a lot as well.
E.
You know how in Japan they have when they're listening and they kind of say eh? the Geordies go, no. And
Oh, that's good.
how you know you're back up north, is that everyone replies to everything you say with E. They do it in Thank Goodness You're Here as well. It's like, I cannot believe that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's awesome. Thank goodness you're here. It's out there now. What is it on? It's on Switch and PC.
Yeah, it's on everything.
On everything. Awesome.
It's even on Mac.
Oh, Leo, way to go. Mac
That's
gamers,
so great.
you know?
I actually have a friend who only games on Mac who is a cartoonist named Beanie Tuesday, who I will totally send this to.
There's your person. You found the recommendation. Jacob, there's a game that, we should have talked about a long time ago called Nine Souls. And I heard people talking about a podcast and I'm like, okay, yeah, it looks good. It's kind of is it a Metroidvania? Is that the...
Hold on, everyone. You got your list of like indie games that are better than the AAA games coming out this year.
Right.
We got another one. It's Nine Souls.
Okay. I did not give this game its due. I should have looked at gameplay of it because it looks absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't think I can recommend it to anyone at MinnMax because no one likes having their teeth kicked in by a game like I do. It is, but I'm really glad actually that there are two people here who I don't fully know their gaming tastes, because both Haley and Lucy, maybe this is more up your alley than it is MinnMax general squad. I feel like the first interesting thing is this is from Red Candle Games, who made Detention, but then notably Devotion, the game that was like delisted from stores because it like made like a Winnie the Pooh joke, and they're a Chinese company, and it was like taken down or whatever.
Yeah.
And both of those were like pretty atmospheric horror games. They're both very good. But this is fully Hollow Knight by way of Sekiro. Like it is a Sekiro as it's 2D. It's a 2D, kind of Metroidvania platformer, but like it is a game about memorizing every single move of an incredibly difficult boss until you can like do it like a beautiful dance. And it is better at that than any game that I have played in a very long time.
Whoa, that's high praise. I mean, It is wild. It's a huge pivot from moody, atmospheric 3D games to suddenly here's a super tight, beautiful 2D art Metroidvania.
Yeah, and I think actually I do think that MinnMax folks, even if so it does have a difficulty level that I haven't tried, but like there is a thing where you can adjust certain settings. You might be able to like make parry windows longer or take less damage or something. Like there is a mode that lets you do that, because the setup of this game is so cool, wherein like you play as a kind of anthropomorphic fox. It's a very this isn't my speed. It's a very furry game, and there is like a lot of art in this game that is like, oh, that's a fursona, like that is like a lion with a big muscles or something. But you play as an anthropomorphic fox. It seems like you're kind of in this like back in time kind of mystical whatever, like a fantasy world. And then like 10 minutes into the game, just kind of at the end of the prologue, there are a bunch of villagers and they're like, oh, we're time to do our ceremony. And you walk, and the ceremony is them like walking into a big horrible machine that picks them up and twists their head off. And then you save this one kid who you're attached to from the machine, and you like fall down into the basement of it, and suddenly you were in like super high tech future world. And it's this like really interesting mix of, it is high fantasy kind of, but like there is a lot of tech. It's very gross. It's very grisly. It has very kind of like Akira style, like strange body growth stuff going on. And so just like the tone it's setting, where you're playing this little fox, but your fox is like an expert hacker, and it's like, yeah, I don't believe in all that God stuff, is like really cool and interesting.
That's so wild. I think it's easy, to be overwhelmed with the amount of Metroidvanias here. And in fact, like what Bo Path of the Teal Lotus just came out not that long ago either, which is another like 2D beautiful Metroidvania game. So it's easy to conflate these two, but you're red hot on Nine Souls. Is that the read here?
Yeah, and I would say in terms of Metroidvanias, it is less, the exploration is not as challenging as many of the other ones that have come out recently. Okay. Like I would call Prince of Persia seems like mostly an exploration-based Metroidvania that then has like interesting combat and stuff.
Right.
This is primarily a combat game that then does happen to have really good platforming and stuff, but like my rhythm of playing the game is I explore for an hour and then I am repeatedly trying a boss for an hour and a half, and like that's basically what I've been doing for the past week every night, and I'm
then
loving
you
it.
take breaks to go ooh and rub your hands together. I get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am hooting and hollering playing this game in a way that, like, I didn't even with Elden Ring. Like, beating bosses in this, in Shadow of the Erdtree, like, beating bosses in this has made me more excited because it is just that Sekiro thing of, like, you can't fake your way through it. You know, like, the only way to do it is to truly master it, and having that feeling is just so amazing.
Yeah. Former guest of the show, Ellie Joy Panic. I was watching this clip of her fight some big boss in Shadow of the Erdtree. She made me laugh so much because she was like beating her head against the wall trying to beat this thing. And she finally beat it, and she just goes, "Good!" Like, it's the funniest reaction. Like, good, all is right with the world. I have finally defeated that. Like, it's such a better exclamation than like, F you, or anything like that. Just, yeah, this is correct, finally. Okay, so 9 souls, and the souls doesn't have a U in that whole thing. But you know what's more our speed, gaming-wise? Doing that New York Times mini crossword every day.
Oh my god.
Okay,
yes.
Lucy,
Wait, can we share leaderboards?
Okay, I have dabbled. I heard that you were really into this, Lucy, and I've tried it a couple times. I'm like, yes, give me just the Wordle equivalent on my phone of doing a tiny little crossword. It's so good. But I was turned off by it at first because I'm like, is this like a New York Times subscription thing? Do I have to deal with all that? But it's not.
No, it's $5 a month just for the games app.
Okay.
But now we've all discovered that the leaderboards are a thing. So the thing is that on the Giant Bomb crew, I'm usually at the top. Sometimes one of the Jeffs will beat me. Callie Plaguey, who's now at Polygon.
Yeah.
I love her. She's one of my best friends. I might have to unfriend her on the leaderboard because I think I only have beaten her one time. Like, she is a speed demon. Okay, so just be clear, like, to get the leaderboard thing, because I haven't like logged in or anything like that to play this game, but like I don't have to pay to get the leaderboard stuff. I can just log in with like Google or something. Oh, okay.
Oh, I have the free app on Android, and I'm on the leaderboard.
Oh, really?
Wait, it doesn't make you? Oh, okay.
I'm not being told to pay. Yeah.
Then don't. I mean, hey, I thought that was like part of the thing. So why am I paying?
Yeah, you're a fool, I think is the reason.
It looks like archive stuff is all behind it, and the crossword, the Big Kid crossword, is subscription. Yeah.
This seems perfect. Leo, I don't know if you're craving a follow-up to the Wordle sensation here, but...
Sure, we do connections.
Oh,
Connections is great.
Every day.
And some days we play the game Connections on New York Times app.
That's sweet. It is. I know there was like that data that went around a little while ago that, what is it? New York Times is getting more money as a video game subscription
New York
publisher.
Times is now a gaming company with a newspaper side hustle.
And I remember wanting to dunk on them so much when they're starting to lead off with this. Like back when Ana Diaz was doing that show Refreshed at MinnMax, I remember we talked about like, oh, we should make a video that's like a jokey video about New York Times subscription versus Game Pass subscription. And now I feel like it's debatable.
I play New York Times games far more recently than I played a game on Game Pass.
Yeah, it's wild. But hey, Leo Vader, do you know personally in your soul how this whole thing operates, how this podcast continues to exist?
It's something to do with money.
Money, cold hard cash, put it in an envelope, send it our way. Oh, or you can just go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. You go there, you find a tier that's right for you, something that's sustainable on your end, and you keep this whole independent operation sustainable on our end. If you like the direction we're going, you want to keep us around, find the tier that's right for you. We greatly appreciate it. And of course, thank you to some of our biggest supporters, like these fine folks. I Am 8-Bit. I Am 8-Bit has something new in their store, I'd argue all the time, but specifically, they have Simpler Times, the vinyl soundtrack to a new game that I Am 8-Bit has published that is called Simpler Times. Have you all seen this game, Simpler Times, yet?
No, I'm Googling.
You should look it up. It is described on Steam as an experiential, interactive meditation that rewards patience and attention with poignant moments that can be replayed like a favorite song. It looks, if you like cozy games, soothing 3D games, just about experiential moments, Simpler Times is the game for you here thanks to I'm 8-Bit, and you can also get their vinyl soundtrack in their wonderful online store. And you should help support I'm 8-Bit and their wonderful online store because they help the community in a big way. Every single week they ship out a prize to the MinnMax community to whoever has the best question of the week. So please help support I'm 8-Bit because they ship out this prize each and every week. This week, whoever has the best question as we deem it, specifically probably Lucy and Haley, will get like 3 votes each because they're the guests and all this stuff. But whoever's the best question from the community, they will win Untitled Goose Game on Switch. I'm 8-Bit will just ship that to their darn house. And don't forget that you can use the promo code Super Soaker Sunday. Super Soaker Sunday, all caps, no space, for 10% off of everything in I'm 8-Bit's wonderful online store. All right, you ready for these community questions now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Haley, are you ready for these?
Let's freaking go.
Okay. Have you ever written in with community questions, Haley? Have we read any on air? I'm trying to remember your history with community questions.
I stay mad stealth in the community.
Smart.
I added one comment to the Shadow of the Erdtree Deepest Dive Part 2.
Okay.
It got read. I was like, oh my God, I feel seen. And then well, to be fair, the community posts 10,000 amazing questions within 20 seconds of the post going up. And I read through all of them. I'm like, every single thing I've ever considered ever is already here. So, yeah.
That's what we got to think outside the box. Just if you ever have a wild idea, just write it down on your phone, get back to us. We'll get it. Look, you can top this. Graham Walker wrote in on Patreon. They say, the return of Haley DeBoom is a time for celebrating! ! So there you go. Congratulations. Lucy, are you aware that Haley's official name is Haley DeBoom?
I didn't know if that was like your real name, but like that's an incredible name. I was like, even like if you'd pick that as a username, I was like, damn, that's really good. But wow.
Yeah, Leo and I need to have like a asterisk that's like, real name. Yeah.
That's true.
All good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I could change my name, that I can have an asterisk as well that just says not my real name, but I'm trying to make it more punchy and cool.
Ben Cool Gun.
Yeah, something like that. I remember when I started at MinnMax, I was like, when I started at Game Informer, I was like, should I try and stand out more than just having the name Ben Hansen? And I was like, my middle name is Merrill. Like maybe if I went by Merrill Hansen, I'd have a little more pizzazz in this industry now that I'm quote unquote public facing. Is it too late to go for Merrill?
I think you can make it happen.
Yeah, it's confusing now.
Ben,
I think it would have been the right decision is the hard part.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's too late now.
I had a Minnesotan great uncle whose name was Merrill, and he went by Punk.
Punk?
Oh.
Punk. Like we called him Punk.
That's good.
That's rad.
Yeah, grandparents' names. Like I still think all the time about my step grandma. Her name was Tanella King, which is a great name, but better because she then started going by TK. Like her old friends would call her TK, and then that was shortened to just Teak. I was like, Teak is a really cool name for a grandma too.
Yeah, Grandma Teak.
Yeah, it was solid. Thanks for talking about my grandma Teak, Lucy. That's very sweet to hear.
Grandma Teak.
What is it with grandparents? Because I feel like my grandma was telling me a story the other day, and she was like, yeah, we had to talk to our friend back home, Muggs. And I was like, Muggs. And I was like, hey, grandma, what was her actual name? And she, dead serious, was like, I don't remember. It was just Muggs. And I was like yes.
My mom has a friend who goes by Boods.
Boods.
But her name is Bessie.
Both good. Both solid. Hey,
I'm like, where did I was like, I don't understand where that came from, but I've only ever known her as Boods.
Hey, Lucy, can I ask you a question? And I should have done it off air, but so the Friends Per Second podcast, Ralph on there, right?
Yeah.
So we had him on the latest episode of Trivia Tower. He hosted it with Huber. It was very sweet to see. I don't know how to refer to him. Is his channel Skill Up, or is Skill Up his username that blossomed into an entire channel? Is it weird to call him Skill Up?
I don't think it's weird to call him Skill Up. I've only ever just called him Ralph.
Okay. But does he...
But I know, like, when we go out, people are like, oh, it's Skill Up. But I think he even himself will say from the Skill Up channel.
Okay, so it's like
think either
it's a username that blossomed into a channel. Because in that way, I'd be fine calling him Skillet, but like I wouldn't want people in the public calling me MinnMax. I'd be like, that's insane. What are you doing?
I think Ralph.
I get that a lot.
Ralph, aka Skill Up, is what he also goes. He
Okay,
also does.
all right.
If you want to hedge both bets, like Ralph, aka. Skill Up.
Okay, great. Let's see. Not Weirder writes in. They say, hey, what's something in your work setup that's not a necessity, but it makes everything just that much better? Maybe it's a handy bit of tech, a nice piece of art, or just some good luck charms. What do you got?
I have this that I'm about to hang up that my friend made me for my birthday last year, which is a version of The Simpsons Do It For Her, but it's my cat instead.
Oh, that's excellent.
Nice.
Which is one of my favorite birthday presents I've ever received.
That is a really
I look
thoughtful
at that every day. It's above my... It's usually above my monitor, but it fell off.
Too much use. I get it.
My
I have,
dad
like-
got me. Sorry, this is something important about my dad, Jacob. he got me a page a day calendar for Christmas last year, which is just super simple, like thin disposable paper.
Right.
And he told me that in the South Korean style, I haven't Googled and confirmed this, you tear it off at the end of the day to leave it at the next day for when you get in, as like you ending your day.
Oh.
And as somebody who works from home, it's nice to have an extra little ritual of like, this is me not working anymore. This is me ending my day of work.
Clocking out.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, that's good. Top that, Jacob. Hotshot.
I can't. I mean, it's like, I feel like we all have kind of fidget toys on our desk. I find a lot of them unsatisfying. They just like, they don't work for me, but I have a very small multi-tool that I can just use to kind of like, while I'm on, I can just kind of fold it up and unfold it and like pinch myself, which weirdly is like more not hard, but it just like, there, you know, in the same way that you'd kind of like put a hair clip on your hands and just be like, ha ha ha. It's like just being able to like do a little poke is more satisfying than being able to do a fidget spinner.
Yeah, that's good. I've probably talked about it before, but yeah, having like a strength grip, I feel like is really nice, where it's like, oh, if I want to feel like I'm getting a workout as I'm talking about video games, this is something, right?
That does seem nice.
Yeah, thanks.
My dear Kobe Soft Joe, kind of in a Jacob way, used to have a bottle of Tabasco on his desk, and he would just dab it on his tongue every once in a while.
Just to feel alive.
Just for sensation.
You know that famous psychology experiment where it's like people were just put in a room with a button to shock themselves? And there was like a guy who shocked himself like 200 times in an hour. It's just like, well, what else do I have to do?
Bloody Waffle writes in. They say, hey, thinking about World of Goo and back when digital games were a novelty, what was the first digital game that you ever bought? On Wii, PS3, 360?
I'm trying to think. It would have been Summer of Arcade. Something in that, like Limbo, Super Meat Boy. I'm gonna Google
Geometry boards?
I think mine might have been Peggle, or like an early PopCap game, if that counts. Because they were that was like, I remember wanting it, and my parents were like, "This isn't a scam. You're just gonna download something from the internet," and I'd be like, "I hope not."
Yeah, I was really late to that generation, so I got like my PS3 in 2008. So like it was probably Pixel Junk Eden. I remember seeing that like on the 1UP show. I was like, that game looks so wild. Get me in on that. Or like Trash Panic. Remember, was another one from that era that had amazing reviews that I didn't really like that much. But Madden Arcade. Remember, I was excited for that weird thing.
I do feel like Summer of Arcade broke the seal for me too. And what might have been Geometry Wars. And then they did Xbox Originals, which were original Xbox games for sale for $15 on the Xbox 360 Live Store. Yeah. And that was like, my allowance at the time was $20 a week. And that was like no money management skills. The second I get it, I go, Mom, can you just put it in my account? And I just buy whatever Xbox Original is for sale at the moment that I have no interest in at all, because it's just a game I can get immediately.
I remember
so I played
Xbox
Indigo Prophecy that way.
Points. Was it Xbox Points? What do they call them?
Yeah.
And you could only ever buy them like either 100 or 200 less than you actually needed.
The
greatest scam of all time. Yeah, it's perfect.
$10 for 800, yeah.
Oh, that was it.
Jesse Eberens writes in. They say, Lucy, congrats on the Star Player series over at GameSpot. What is something out of all of your interviews with celebrities so far that has surprised you the most?
Ooh. First of all, thank you for mentioning Star Players. New half of the season just started. So we have Abu from Surgeon Studios and House of Dragon this week. And next week we've got Johnny from the band Health, which was a huge get for me because I love Health.
Sweet.
And if you like the Max Payne 3 soundtrack, you also love Health.
You came to the right podcast.
We got some big fans of the Max Payne 3 soundtrack on this podcast.
I mean, yeah, actually, his story about how they got that gig, he tells it in the episode. It's so interesting because, like, yeah, someone at Rockstar really just took a chance on them. A thing that I didn't realize is how much Dominic Monaghan likes Planet Zoo.
Of course. Of course.
Like, we were having a really nice interview. He was lovely. And as a big Lord of the Rings fan, honestly, everything I could have hoped for and more. It was great. But he was having a lovely time. And then we started playing and talking about Planet Zoo. And he was just lit up. Like, I've never seen anyone just adore something like that so purely. And also, I found out that he keeps animals. And so it's also our parent company Fandom's 20th anniversary. So we're asking everyone, hey, what's your favorite fandom? And he said, oh, like bugs and that kind of stuff. And so he keeps bugs and animals, and he's very, very into nature. And so I thought that was really cool. So that's probably the biggest thing what I found out.
Or maybe he hates nature and he wants to contain it. And that's why he's so into that idea. He wants to seal it away in his sick pleasure palace.
He was talking about the game economy to get tigers and how difficult it was to like actually get tigers and big animals in that game. And he went really in deep on all this, because in order to get animals in Planet Zoo, you have to do a certain amount of conservation work or something to get conservation credits. And I was like, you've thought more about this than I think anyone. But it got me interested in Planet Zoo. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen a bunch of people at work like log on to Steam, like my colleague Kurt. I was playing a game the other day and I just saw Kurt Intervener is playing Planet Zoo.
Dominic! I really like the Steve-O interview, of course, like making him play the Jackass game, and like that story really killed me. Where the framing for all this is just like, well, I've talked a lot of crap about video games throughout the years, so now I'm gonna actually try and do right by being on this video game theme show. Yes. But him talking about how he was so loaded that he went in to record VO for Jackass the game, like they couldn't use any of it. And so now his face is like in this game, but like the way you like zoom in on his little face in the corner of the game, and he's just like his character model just doesn't say anything because they couldn't use it. And like it's an interesting lesson in sobriety of like, hey, you want to know the end game for all of this is you will get to be in a video game, but it's so terrible because you're so loaded that it's unusable and you technically won't be in that video game after all.
It's wild. Yeah, because we were playing it. I'm not sure if this made it into the final cut, but there are points where Steve-O in the game is screaming and Steve-O in real life was going, I don't know if that's me. I think that's someone else. Like, I don't think they use me at all. And yeah, Kurt found the behind the scenes video of him recording it, and it was rough. Yeah, he was, but he's gone on his journey. Like, he's fully sober now, and he was happy to speak to it and how much it's changed his life to go sober. So all power to him.
He was great on Bill Maher's podcast talking about that. I'm just joking. Bill Maher wouldn't have him on because
I was like, I'm not going to say anything about that.
Bill Maher was the one who said,
yeah, he's like, I'm going to be drinking and smoking weed if you can't handle that. It's like, you can't take a break for an hour? What's going on? Anyways, but I loved it in that Steve-O thing too. I'm a sucker when people are just transparent about things, and specifically money. And I love that he's like, oh yeah, for this football game I had a cameo in, they gave me $100,000. And then for like Tony Hawk that he was in, he got like, what, $2,000 or something. It's just wild to see the numbers there. But congrats on launching that whole thing. I mean, I'm a sucker for when an outlet is just pushing in a direction. And, you know, was it like a year ago where you unveiled like all the different shows like Spot On that you do with Pam and all that over there? What's the conclusion after launching all those shows and kind of looking at the data and all that dorky video stuff?
It's weird because it's like, for us, it's like it's an excuse to make new things and try new things, and we're very lucky that Fandom and GameSpot are very much also like, hey, just, you know, have a go and throw things to the wall and see what sticks. I think the difficulty is that our channel is a lot of stuff has picked up and done really well, and so, you know, Spot On is still ongoing, Star Players is ongoing. Some things we'll make and then we'll come back and bring them back for a different season, so it's really nice. But I think as well, it's like, if we had a specialized channel where that stuff lived, it'd be interesting to see, because a lot of people come to GameSpot for trailers and stuff, and then hopefully the goal is they'll see some of this programming and stick around and actually kind of dig into it.
Right.
But I mean, for us, like, we're all very happy with it. We're all very happy with I think the big thing that keeps coming in the comments is, oh, I didn't expect a place like GameSpot to make this. And so we're like, well, we're glad we could surprise you. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for sticking around and watching it. And there have been a lot of people who have been just so lovely about it, and like, you know, it means a lot to hear you say nice things about it, and like the Giant Bomb community is really also enjoying them.
Yeah.
And so it's nice. I don't know. I don't know how you all feel about being on the internet, but sometimes it feels weird to think about people watching anything that you do, let alone it resonating. And even after 10 years, I still kind of struggle with that. And so when I see people in real life or talk to people and they go, hey, I really like that thing that you made, I was like, oh, you watched that? Oh,
Right.
thank you.
Like I was watching some Giant Bomb stuff a while ago, and Bacalar mentioned like, oh, I watched the Disneyland travelogue over at MinnMax with Mike Minotti. I was like, I cannot imagine Jeff Bacalar sitting back like on a Saturday night and watching 40 minutes of me screaming on a roller coaster. That seems so absurd. Well, that's sweet. Also, what's going on? The expert reacts over there.
Jonathan Ferguson.
Yeah, breaking down those weapons in every game. It seems like the views are just out of control for that series. Like, I assume you're taking care of that guy, but it's just bizarre. Like, oh, that is the GameSpot powerhouse views-wise, is a guy being like, these guns, let me tell you about these guns in this specific game.
Obviously Expert Reacts is a very big format. It's not obviously unique to us by any stretch of the imagination, but Jonathan he's just great at it, and he also understands gaming. And so you kind of get that authenticity where I think he's done episodes where he's worn like a Doom shirt or something just because he had it. And so no, it's fun. It's like, it's nice to have something that is beloved in the community and also reliable views wise.
Right.
No slowing down on there. We've got other experts obviously coming in. We have like an SAS guy who's on the hook for stuff too. It's all the credit to Dave, Chris, and Adam in the UK for Expert Reacts, by the way. Like, they've absolutely crushed it. And Kurt for Star Players. It's fun. I think we're just very lucky that we get to experiment.
Yeah, for sure. JD Silva writes in over on Patreon to say, heyo, Haley DeBoom, what's a genre of game that you've always wanted to get into, but for whatever reason you can only appreciate from afar? For JD, it's fighting games. He says, this year's EVO has me attempting to learn Street Fighter 6. It's just Ken and I against the world, and it feels like I'm learning an instrument. Yeah, Ken is truly the greatest musical instrument. I think we'd all agree. But you got one?
Gosh. I mean, pretty much every genre I don't play, I am constantly like, why don't I do this other thing more? Definitely for me, like fighting games is one that every once in 5 years, I'm like, it'd be so cool if I could just take a fighting stick and just wreck shop, but not being good at it automatically. I'm like, oh, I have to practice? That's weird. No, thank you. But I think another one is any sort of like, I don't know what the genre for this is, but like streamer horror game dealio.
Okay.
Like any of those kind of like spur of the moment, like this is popping off on Steam. It looks like ass and it's like super fun for 2 weeks. Like any of those sort of like, really hot topic kind of games. I just never get in on time, and I'm like, okay, great. Like, I don't know what it is about him, but
you need to have like the locked friend group that's going to be on board for like, okay, Phasmophobia, we're jumping in on a regular basis, and whatever game is kind of taking that slot, we just need to kind of roll with the times. Because like trying to rally your friends from 0 to, okay, now we're all gonna. What's the one where you're like making the YouTube video?
What is that?
Oh boy, I didn't play it. It completely missed me. But I think maybe we had
it was probably downloaded like 40 million times.
Exactly right. A content warning. Thank you, Backstage Pass Chat. Like that was one. It's like trying to convince my friends to jump in out of the blue and play that thing. I don't think I could do it. Leo, I feel like you have the Discord friends that this is feasible for you to get into this thing.
We also try a lot of games though, and sometimes it's like there's an apathy that builds up of like, this is going to be the one we stick with for more than 2 weeks. Like, why would I buy this?
Right.
You know, it's hard to sell people on this is the one we should all invest in, because we can't even prove how fun it is until we all have it.
Yeah. Tricky. I think for me, it's like maybe the 4X stuff. because I like RTS games, everyone's like, oh, well, you'll love that Civilization stuff. I'm like, no. That's for nerds.
wait.
I don't know what that crap
I
is.
was going to say I love Civ, but I can't get into the stuff that like Ben Hansen likes. Surely they're similar, but there's something about it where it just doesn't click the same. I'll be up until a good 3 a.m. playing Civ 5 or whatever, and then won't play it again for 2 weeks, and then be like, wait, why did I stop? You know, that kind of thing.
Okay,
but
so
then
how
Age of
about-
Mythologies, things like that, I'm like,
That seems impossible to me. Okay, one is like action and fun. Okay, so Haley, I guess if like, it's not quite a lobotomy, but maybe we could each take like half of our brain and then like swap, and then we'd be great at all of the strategy stuff. I think that's the way brains would work.
yeah.
Okay,
sounds good
great.
to me.
And I'd learn to play the bass as well, stand-up bass.
Yeah, Ben,
Oh,
you
that
just want
does-
those ILM memories.
Yeah. What was it like working on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom? Download it into my brain, Neo style. Has anybody else got a genre they want to get into?
Not a genre, but it's not even that I'm not good at it, but I just wish I had the time to get into Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah. Kelsey Lewin on our team is convinced she's going to try. No one has 300 hours. You can't do it. At this point, write it off, everybody. Great game. Put it on the big Hall of Fame board. And I feel like collectively as a people, we need to just move on with our lives.
And the Final Fantasy 14 players, you know, they know we can't prove they're not having the most fun, and they like that.
Yep, exactly.
We need that division.
They're into it. Tux Peng writes in and says, what's the best seemingly little thing someone can do to make their life better in some way?
Stretch.
Stretch.
Ooh.
When you hit 30, start stretching.
I hate stretching. And I got into running a couple years ago and I refused to stretch, and now my knee is permanently messed up because of it. But still, I'm gonna go to the grave being an anti-stretch. But it feels good, or you need to do it. What angle are you going here?
Both. I mean, I just follow like a 20-minute YouTube video of a beautiful woman who's on a beach in Thailand or something. But honestly, like, because I sit so much, I also have a sit-stand desk, but even that doesn't really do it. I sit like a shrimp, like hunched over, terrible posture most of the time. And honestly, I hate how much better I feel after a 20-minute stretch.
Yeah, because you know
They're right. That, sleep, water, whatever. Yeah, it all
the
feels really
water.
good. I hate it.
What about this for an invention? Leo, write this down. A sit-stand stretch desk. So like periodically throughout the day, it'll like guide your feet and kind of stretch you out, and then still position your computer in a way that works.
And then the keyboard and the mouse too can stretch out for your arms.
Right. Just going all
You'll
the
have to,
way.
like,
But like,
reach
hey,
out
you
to
want to
keep
keep
up
working, don't you? You love work, right? Try and ride this ride, buddy. It'd be good for
I
everybody.
often wish that I had like a low-level medieval stretching rack. You know, that it's just like something that could just grab my arms and legs and just kind of pull me just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do it like on my own time, like following a YouTube video. That seems boring.
The thing is, it is, I don't know, it's not boring because I've kind of got into gamifying. Like, I got the Apple Watch and I just am like, oh yeah, I'll put this in as a yoga workout, and then I get the satisfaction. So I basically give myself points for doing things. And that's the one thing that kind of keeps me going.
Yeah.
If I did have a letterboxd for working out, that would help me a lot.
That's so sad. I mean,
Leo,
it's kind
Leo
of...
referenced this on the podcast last week, but bidet, baby.
Yeah.
Once you install a bidet in your house, that's it. You can never go back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Leo, don't you think Strava is kind of the working out letterbox? Like Strava is like my favorite social media app at this point, just for like giving thumbs up to other people for their long runs and bike rides and stuff. And like when someone gives me that thumbs up on Strava, Andy McNamara slides into my likes and gives me a thumbs up on like a big bike ride. It's like, la-di-da, I've made it.
I barely know what that is.
Ooh, look it up. If you like running or biking, it's a great way to track your progress throughout the year. It's really fun. And like,
Cool.
It has, I wish it was a cleaner UI for this thing, but it has something that I really love where it's a little bit like a Burnout Paradise model where they have different like tracks. So I go on like the same bike ride every morning, you know, and it's broken up into sections if you really dive into the data. And it's just like, oh, you set your personal record for this stretch of the bike trail and stuff. And I think that's so cool to like compare yourself then. It's basically a New York Times mini thing, but to compare your time with yourself in the past and your friends and all that stuff, if they've gone on that path, like there's a lot of cool stuff in there. It's lovely.
Yeah, I kind of have Pikmin Bloom filling that niche, but it's not something where you see your friends' walks or anything. The
Right.
social features aren't as motivating as that would be.
Yeah. Has anybody else got a little something?
Well, someone was crapping on water, and I am definitely one of those people. I drink so much water. I've got one of these. I don't even know how big this is, but I drink like, what does that say? Oh, it's a liter. And I drink like 4 of these a day.
Yes.
And the other day, a couple months ago, I was like pretty darn sick. I wasn't able to drink water, and I got so dehydrated so quickly. Ugh. I really felt the difference. And I was like, oh, I don't just do that because it's like a cute thing to do. It's like really impactful for my body working properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, water and stretching, everyone's going to keep saying it because it's actually working, but you gotta get into it.
Headaches and stuff too. It's like, oh wait, I haven't drank as much water as usual. And that sometimes is the reason for something like that. And I would just at some point, it doesn't have to be now, I would like to get my flowers for drinking out of a big mug for the past 11 years. And now everybody's got the big Stanley cups. I really kind of was ahead of the curve on that.
I just don't want to give it to you. I don't think that
it doesn't have to be now.
Okay, I'll think about it in the future. For Haley, you're thinking of people crapping on water. You're just thinking of Jacob Geller and his bidet, I think is what you're getting it conflated, I understand.
Yeah, crap first and then water.
Well, I've been using the bidet way wrong. Let's see. Tan writes in. They say, hey, Tan.
It's making it harder.
Why do people pay for this? So Tan writes in with, tell me if this is a dumb question. I like it, and I'll stand by it. They say, is 4-player multiplayer / co-op the norm in the game industry because the N64 had 4 controller ports? Can it all be traced back to the N64 4 controller ports? My first instinct is, no, don't be an idiot. I wish we had Kelsey Lewin, master historian, here to fix us on this. But is there something there? Is it possible
What about arcade cabinets? Were there arcade cabinets that had 4 players before the N64?
It could be like the X-Men 6-player standard. But I guess...
Oh, that's true.
No, you're right. I mean, it's either 2 or 4 for arcades. I wonder why that is. It's just kind of a more symmetrical thing. Like if there were more 3-player games in the arcades, then...
I'd imagine geometry, right? You can split the screen up into 4. You can divide all of your pixels by 4 and 2 a lot easier. You don't have like,
Yeah, also if you're splitting a screen by 3, that's not fun.
Yeah, so it's math's fault, I think, is the idea that we're all in 4-player squads. But I do like those games that stand out for like 3. Was it Outriders? That was like 3-person teams and stuff. It's like, oh, what a funky choice.
Well, lots of games now are 3 players, and it's because of statistics on like people are usually in a squad of 3.
Right.
Like that's why Apex did it that way and stuff.
Yeah. I was looking into the history of the multi-tap, like adapting old consoles. Because remember, like the PlayStation had the multi-tap. I never had it, so you could play 4 players on a PlayStation 1 and stuff. But it goes back, even the NES had a multi-tap. Jacob, try and guess what the multi-tap for the NES was called. And keep in mind, it's the world's most perfect name for a multi-tap for the NES.
Ben, can I make a confession? I don't know what a multi-tap is.
Really? It's
I know. Look, it's you touch your phone with multiple fingers.
That's what I meant.
Time.
No, it's a little adapter that you plug into 2 controller ports, and then it adds 2 more controller ports. Is the idea?
Oh, okay.
Interesting. But the NES version,
the N128.
N128, everybody. No, it's called the 4 score. It's like, perfect. Nailed it, NES. Perfect work.
The Lincoln Simulator? What?
That's right. Yeah, you can only play historical games. Leo, you ready for a pop quiz here?
Hit me.
Speaking of controllers, I'm the type of dork that finds this interesting. Pop quiz, maximum number of controllers you can play on the Nintendo Switch. You can sync up with the Nintendo Switch.
Wow. Aren't there? I feel like there are some novelty games that really take it there to its limit. 1-2 Switch sequel did this, right?
Well, that's like the phone thing where it's like that feels a little bit different. 32.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to say 16. Final answer.
16. I'm going to say you're out of your minds. You want to have another guess?
I was going to say 16 as well, or 8.
4
but
pairs.
Thank you.
4 pairs, so 8 Joy-Cons.
8 Joy-Cons. Interesting. It's 8, it turns out. It kind of Smash Brothers limits there for overall. But I guess, 4 pairs. Yeah, that would work. 16 Joy-Cons, if you want to be specific, I suppose. I think that would work. Or maybe it's only 1 Joy-Con for that thing. But anyways, Xbox controller limit.
4?
Including System Link?
Not System Link. This is Xbox Series X here.
Oh, Series X.
Yeah,
oh,
sorry.
60.
Why would it be more than 4?
Why would
I'm
it be
gonna
more
say
than 4?
6, just to be weird.
Okay.
100 for 1 versus 100 local.
That is correct. Get an
101.
auditorium. The PS5 is only 4. Xbox 8 controllers you can sync up. Because remember they had was it Quake 2? I think the remaster on Xbox. You could play 8-player split screen. I was like, wow,
I just
that's
want to know,
Oh my God.
I want to see like achievement statistics on like how many people have ever connected 8 controllers to an Xbox. Is
Yep.
it like 0.4%, if that?
Ooh, we can do it at the Asheville meetup. That'll be the big event. We'll gather everybody in the community around, and then we'll hook up 8 controllers and Xbox, and everyone can
Microsoft
rejoice.
will call us and be like, "You're the first person to ever do this."
Congratulations, the factory is yours. Haley, you've been secretly the champion of community meetups. I feel like you were at the San Francisco one, you're at the LA one, you're all over the place. So congratulations. Zero pressure for you to come to the Asheville one. Just so
I was
you
just
know.
about to say big announcement time. I will not be coming to
All right, perfect. Derek, what was that thing? So Charles Hart out there. Oh, we went to the Giant Bomb after party thing. After your big stage thing, where it was very loud in that dark room. Lucy, I assume you're
The
in there.
loudest party I've ever been to.
It was brutally loud. And Dan said he begged people to turn it down, and there was nothing they
We
could
did,
do.
and allegedly they did twice. And I was like,
No.
I don't
No.
think so.
No.
Thank you for coming to that.
Oh, yeah. But Haley, who did you meet there with Charles that you're so excited about? There's some actor or something?
Oh, my lands. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Dropout and Dimension 20, D&D stuff. And he's also a huge internet personality outside of it, but Iffy Wadaway, he was actually, so he was doing stuff for the Giant Bomb show, and his Dimension 20, he took over a Dropout show called Actually, which is like a big nerd quiz show basically, and his next season of Dimension 20 D&D, Never Stop Blowing Up, was about to premiere. And that season is actually going on right now. It's all about like a 80s action movie, but D&D and a little bit Jumanji. So it's a really fun combination of styles and stuff, but he's also really fit. And so like seeing him in footage and stuff, I'm like, wow, he's pretty fit. And then seeing him in person, I'm like, he's really fit. Like, so that was incredible because Charles is like super tall, but seeing him stand next to Iffy, I was like, no, Iffy's just like built. And then Charles is tall. So
that,
it made
Charles.
for, we got a photo, and he was very, very nice, which I appreciate.
Nice.
Working in LA, you never know what you're going to get with actors. So he was really cool with all the folks that were there. So.
Yeah. Do you meet a lot of actors?
I work with a lot of them. So like in terms of working, they show up and you're there to do work.
Yeah.
And then I don't really hit the spots that the actors and the famous people are at. But people are constantly, actually, apparently the other day, Ben Affleck was driving past our office and made an illegal U-turn.
And everyone
in
saw
like a
it?
BMW.
He had to go
or
to
whatever.
Duncan.
He had to floor it. And half of our team was walking across the street, and he like whipped around, and they were like, whoa, like that kind of thing. And then he got in an accident like 4 days later in that car.
Wow.
So small wonder because he was driving like an idiot. But yeah, he's going through it, I'm sure. You know, it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
It's hard when you can't get your Duncan. But yeah, so.
Derek writes in, Deep History Cut, which of these slogans from PlayStation's history is the best? And which is the worst? All right, there are so many damn PlayStation slogans. Like, can anybody name any off the top of their head?
For the players.
For the players. This is for the players, was PS4.
Is play? It's what you do. Is that one?
Ooh, maybe.
I just make that up? Does that
I didn't pull it out here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it was like Greatness Awaits. That was a big PS4 one.
Yeah.
Got that one.
Oh, yeah.
PS5 has Play Has No Limits. Let's see. PS3 Play Beyond, but the E in Beyond is a 3. Also,
Yeah, I can only see that in the Spider-Man font.
Yep.
Like the
Yeah.
font that they put on the PS3.
Also, Welcome Change, but the E at the end is a 3. These are stretches.
So the
Sony.
2008 campaign one? Okay, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Long Live Play was the PS3 Slim. This is an odd one. PS3 slogan, This is Living.
Okay.
All right. PS2, The Beginning, where it's like, oh, that was in the ad, yeah, with the PS9. Where y'all remember this?
That's kind of sick.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I love it. Yeah. It's
Also, like, kind of right. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep. Calling their shot. They're totally right. We'll get to the PS9 eventually, the weird orb flying around the roads. PS2 nailed it with Live in Your World, Play in Ours.
Oh yeah,
That's one I
Oh, that's
remember. Yeah.
Really good.
The PS1 ONE, like the portable one with like the flip up screen thing. That one was wherever, whenever, forever was their slogan for that thing.
Okay.
And then the Japanese PS1 slogan was "Do not underestimate the power of PlayStation," which is pretty bold for getting out of the gate. And then the PSP is out of its mind with its slogans. The PSP 1000 series, the slogan was "PSP, Hells Yeah." The PSP 2000 slogan was "Dude, get your own." PSP 3000.
They're all written by the Life is Strange team.
Yeah.
PSP 3000 was "Everywhere, just got better." I kind of like that one. That one holds
Okay,
up.
I like that one.
PSP Go was "It's go time." Yep. Step
Yeah.
your game up, all that stuff. I'm still fascinated by the Xbox Series X, their slogan, and I feel like they didn't really hit it too hard, but when they revealed it, the slogan for the Xbox Series X, Lucy, do you remember it since you drink out of the cup every day?
Oh no, Jump In was Xbox One, right?
Ooh, I think that was Xbox 360 for Jump In,
360.
I think.
Oh, what was it for? Oh,
It's bad. It's
power your dreams.
Whoa, Lucy James, ladies and gentlemen. Power your dreams.
And are you?
awesome.
And it was confusing because of the year that Dreams also came out. But from
No,
a rival
not that
company.
one.
Yeah, not the one that's fun. Let's see. Ellie Medina writes in and says, "Would you rather it all be a simulation or it all be a dream?" That's a weird coincidence. Those are next to each other. Do you want to take this one? Simulation or dream? What's preferable?
Leo and I just had a conversation about this that you can watch on Nebula about the TV show Devs. Simulation, I
Simulation.
think.
But that feels so artificial. If it was all a dream and all of our life was a dream, that feels like that's taking mushrooms versus, LSD, I feel like.
Well, I guess the difference is we're all, well, I don't know.
I
guess
say,
it's-
who controls the simulation versus who controls the dream.
Well, Sony did say this is living about the PS3s, so I think it's probably Sony.
Do I want to put my life in Herman Holst's hands?
I would say
No.
dream.
It's
Yeah, because
natural.
you wake up and you have another life to live.
Oh,
Simulation implies, like, to me at least, like someone has set it up, has set the rules, controlled it, and it's operating somewhere that can be damaged and deleted, or something
Right,
to that
yeah.
extent.
but dream
very
brains can
literally.
be damaged. Yeah, that's tough.
I interpreted it as we're in someone else's dream.
Link's
The
Awakening
world is
style.
each of our own dream, but I'm not sure.
Right, we're in the.
Also,
I'm not sure which is true.
like simulation for me, it's like I'm a sim and someone is playing The Sims,
Mhm.
and I don't want that.
I feel
know
like
I've killed some
simulation-
Sims in some gnarly
Simulation
ways.
feels less likely that I'd ever find out. Where it's like ultimately
Right.
just don't want to know. And so
Yes.
then it's like a dream feels like it could have more things like happen where you'd be like, I'm in a dream. Where it's like, if I've lived 30 years in a simulation, odds are it's not going to start going, well, I say that. I've lived also the past 3 years and things do feel like they're breaking down.
But you're
you
the.
know.
Yeah, you're the ignorance is bliss, the cipher route.
Yeah.
You're going to eat your steak in that lovely restaurant, from the
Yeah,
Matrix.
I would eat that steak.
It does look really good. Yeah. Are you in the camp, Jacob, of not believing the whole simulation thing? Just because it's like it's too simple. It's everybody tries to attach like modern technology to existence and the meaning of life and all this stuff, and the idea of like, well, we started making simulations in computers, therefore it has to be that. It's like that feels so simplistic and so specific to this time that if it is that, I'm going to be so freaking bummed.
I mean, genuinely, this is something that Leo and I talked about very recently in context of the show Devs, where it's like, I think the idea of like, it's a simulation like The Sims is like overly simplistic, but the idea of like, it is a representation of the universe with all the particles in the same place. And so then it's like, then there functionally is no difference. Like, there is no difference between the simulation and whatever reality would be, because they're both just like based on the same physics. Just one is kind of in a box.
Right.
Including the creation of the simulation being
then there'd be
represented
a
within the
sim in a sim. So it's, I don't think it's, it's like one of those things where it's like, well, what does it matter to think about? But like, I don't think it's too limited to think that we might be in a simulation, except to make it like very human focused. right? Like that's the part that gets kind of self-obsessed, is like, it's about us.
Right.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, that seems to be the big lesson from the history of science, is it's always less about us than we think. And so I always am just pushing, like, what's the farthest reach of that we could go? How do I leapfrog where we're eventually going to end up, for just thinking that, we are not important in any way. Let's see. Lost Johnny 2843. Is everyone doing okay? We're all doing fine after that discussion? Everyone's feeling good? Life is good? Okay.
Pack my brain back in. It's all blown.
Great. Last Johnny wrote in saying, hello, I've noticed on Friends Per Second that Lucy always has some good recommendations for literature and such. Congratulations on being the smart one. I would like to hear Lucy's top 5 books. Go.
Of all time?
I think that's what Lost Johnny's looking for desperately.
Oh, boy.
Make him found.
House of Leaves, which I only read last year. Obviously around the Alan Wake excitement.
Yeah.
I read House of Leaves, and it was fantastic and definitely blew my mind. The Shining. I used to really love, I haven't visited it in a long time, I'm talking 10 plus years, but I loved The Cider House Rules the first time I read it.
Yeah.
Because it was unlike anything I'd ever read. This is a very high pressure question because I also read a lot of trash. I'm rereading an old favorite at the moment. Second time I've mentioned Interview with a Vampire this episode, but I'm rereading it and it feels just as contemporary today as it did when I read it when I was a 13-year-old goth. Oh yeah, those pictures exist. It's not fun.
It's kind of fun.
The Rachel Incident, which is about a girl named Rachel who lives in Cork in Ireland, and there's an incident. It's just like, if you want a really nice breezy read, I read it in 2 sittings. Oh, also My Dark Vanessa, which I read Lolita and then My Dark Vanessa.
Oh boy,
and
what are you
that
doing?
is a depressing as hell double bill, but not to bring the mood down, but if you want to talk about growing up as a girl who is like sexualized, and then there's a point in My Dark Vanessa where she romances her teacher, and it's a really interesting book about kind of grooming and her coming to terms with that, you know, as she's an adult. And I think it's a really good double bill, but it's depressing as hell. So warnings aplenty if you choose to read those books, but I thought it was a really good back-to-back.
There you go, Lost Johnny. Buy them all.
Also Between Two Fires, because I mentioned that on FBS and people really enjoyed that I mentioned that one.
Love it.
Basically Dark Souls if it were a novel and not, you know,
The Dark
Berserk.
Souls of books.
The Dark Souls of books. No, I mean between Dark Souls, Berserk, and between Two Fires, you've got the real in all mediums.
Yeah. Andrew Burns writes in, says, approximately how long after it was announced did it take you to start the new episode of PsychOdyssey from Double Fine? And most importantly, what did you think of it? The MinnMax interview with Tim Schafer was discussed. Yeah, that's true. They played a clip in the new episode of the MinnMax interview with Tim Schafer, which is very sweet. What got me about that is, like, number one concern, don't look like an asshole. Don't look like an asshole. It was a good clip. I think we came out okay. But the thing that kills me, that makes me so happy, is like the Wall of Heroes, like the MinnMax patron supporters, like that was rotating in, PsychOdyssey. It's like, oh, that's so cool that that's like baked into the greatest game documentary of all time now.
It was like 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
For me. It was announced. I bought the physical collection and then
Yes.
I went downstairs and watched the new episode.
Yeah, I bought the physical collection immediately because it's coming out on Blu-ray. This is the Double Fine Psychonauts 2 documentary, the 23-part thing that we talked about before. 33-part thing now. But in the physical collection, I had a heads up it was coming because they asked us if they can include that MinnMax Tim Schafer interview. And so as far as I know, it's going to be in there. I said yes. And so I haven't heard one way or the other after that. So I knew this bonus episode was coming as well. But like, you know that feeling when you get an email that's like really important and it's like, I need to take my time before I answer this. This was one of those where it's like, it wasn't until, was it Sunday night or maybe Monday night that like I sat down and watched this, and believe it or not, the new episode of PsychOdyssey destroyed me. I thought it was so damn good. And I'm not looking at anybody on this podcast, but it makes me angry that people that care about game development have not watched all of PsychOdyssey. Like, it is such a miracle that this thing exists, that this amazingly heartfelt video production team was in the studio for 12 years filming all this stuff. And real quick, Jacob, just the fact that like they, in this whole new episode, can talk about just moments from Double Fine's history and then cut to footage of like, well, when this person was hired, it's like, okay, here's footage of that person's first day from years and years ago. And just getting to call back that from this incredible era of Double Fine is mind-boggling. But yes, Jacob, please.
Have you looked at the comments on Double Fine PsychOdyssey episode 33?
No.
The second comment is, this will be like Christmas morning for Ben Hansen.
Yeah, I saw that was so sweet. That was so sweet. I did see that. And after I watched it, I did jump in there from the MinnMax account and be like, yes, it was better than every Christmas morning combined. Because it's weirdly nostalgic. You feel like you have so much history, which I understand parasocial stuff is flaring up here in a big way. But just having new footage of that team and then having that footage of them, I mean, going like on the bar crawl, which they did at the start of Broken Age's development and that whole video series for Double Fine Adventure, just like having that connectivity for such a long span of time is so sweet. And so it absolutely floored me. But Jacob, what did you think about it? What is your takeaway from the new episode?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I think just the thing, it's like the only thing that we didn't have in PsychOdyssey was them being able to respond to PsychOdyssey,
to the documentary,
and
right.
so then them having all watched it and talking about watching it, and just like so many different instances of people being like, if I could have seen that meeting, everything would have made more sense for me. And then they're like, and we're not mad at you. We're not mad at Two Player Productions who made it. But like that basically the entire production of Psychonauts 2 being so baffling to so many people of like, why is this happening the way it's happening? And then watching these meetings that they had not been able to see before, and suddenly like understanding things that they didn't understand about the production is this weird, like it just keeps turning in on itself, where it's like so many of these people joined Double Fine because they watched these documentaries and they understood, or they thought they understood what it was like to work there, and now they're watching the documentary with themselves in it and understanding more that they didn't understand about the studio. Like it is really, it is fully kind of like snake eating its own tail at this point, but like I'm 32 episodes in. Like I'm good with that. They can get as introspective as they want.
Yeah, forget Deadpool and Wolverine. This is the level of meta that I want, is seeing a documentary about them, talking about the documentary and how it impacted them, how it impacted the studio moving forward. And like, oh, it just killed me. There's so many interesting takes where Camden was talking about watching I think he's on the audio team over there at Double Fine. And he was talking about watching it and how stressful it was for him. He said he was like physically shaking, having to relive 7 years of your life in this compact form that also is public as well. And so them reflecting on like the really stressful moments and meetings, it was wild. And even having Asif in there from the 2-player team who went on to be a designer at Double Fine, but he was talking about like, I'm going to cry talking about like the Anna stuff just kills me again. Yeah. And she had such a rough time on that team. And she's like one of the earliest members of Double Fine. And she left during Psychonauts 2's development because it was so brutal. And so them talking about like, okay, there's a lot to unpack here. So forgive me, cut me off at any point. But like seeing Key on the team talk about like, I saw the way Anna was being treated in some of those meetings and being disrespected. And he's like, and I just kept thinking, watch this documentary, like if I was in that room, I'd stand up and say something. And then it cuts to me in that room not saying anything. And it's just such a surreal thing to re-experience. Like I let my friend and my coworker down, and now I'm watching it again and just watching her be heartbroken. And having Asif, what I was saying is Asif like on the video team where he's like, yeah, you want to have the biggest reactions in the room. So when she's having a tough time, you want to zoom in on that. And you want to like direct the cameras, like we should capture this moment. And he's like, now I don't think I could do it. Like I would not zoom in that way.
That's so interesting because it's like, yeah, Asif's whole, like his arc over the course of the whole thing is like he starts outside and he comes in, and also 2-player Productions is weird because they are attached to Double Fine in this way. But it's like, no, you can't. You being sentimental with these people is going to make the documentary worse. Like you hear him say that and you're like, oh, you're too close now. It's really interesting.
But that's like what cements PsychOdyssey and Double Fine Adventure is just like a beautiful time and a place thing. And it's a larger theme as well, because there are a lot of people who were brought on because of the documentary and, for development of Psychonauts 2. And now they're watching this documentary and they're so nostalgic and they're like, that's what I wanted. I wanted The Office. And now the office isn't the same as it was because of COVID, and everyone's going remote, and it's good for them. You know, everyone is branching out, living where they want to live, but they're talking about like how they're pushing hard to have people in there just 2 days a week. Like, hey, we redesigned the entire office to get people in. We have regular tabletop nights. We have arcade games in here. We're trying to make it really fun. We have a tiki bar. And still, the people that are new are like, it's not the vibes that were in the documentary. And it's really heartbreaking. And the producer talks about how every time somebody chooses to work remotely, that like it breaks Tim's heart a little bit, like Tim Schafer over there. And it's like, yeah, you get it. It's just, it's a time and a place thing, and you can't go back. And that's why this documentary is just an incredible relic of this history of everybody being compact in throughout the development of Psychonauts 2 and the stresses that came with that. But then, Jacob, the other part, you can stop us at any moment, everybody. But the other part too is just, I thought it was so fascinating that obviously, so Zach, the designer who was brought in to kind of lead the development of Psychonauts 2, I don't want to spoil PsychOdyssey, but there's a lot of tension there. It's kind of he's the big character other than Tim Schafer in this documentary. And he did a lot of stuff that did not come across well. But a lot of people were watching the documentary on the team and saying like, you know, Zach was really doing a great job and I didn't see that. You know, not saying like he's blameless, but them seeing kind of the quote unquote villain, if you want to be gross about the whole thing of the documentary, having members of the team being like, you kind of see it from his perspective and you see how well he was running the project and trying to move it along. And I appreciated that on a new level instead of just the takeaway of this guy's effed, you know?
I will say the sword of Damocles hanging over the whole episode, and even like the thumbnail of this new episode is Tim Schafer looking over Phil Spencer's shoulder while Phil Spencer does something, and it is not mentioned at all. Like there is no reference to what it means to be a company that is owned by Xbox now. And like,
well, that's not entirely true. They talk about like how much more comfortable it is. They can stop scrambling. And so they talk about how uncomfortable it is to like have time. They give the impression
that you wouldn't have over the past like 3 months.
Well,
you know, like,
yes, I think that the most interesting thing on that, just worrying about Microsoft, you know, closing studios dramatically, is then they talk about redesigning the office. They talk about, okay, we had to get it done so it looked really good when Microsoft came in, because Microsoft was checking out our new projects because they're working on multiple projects now, which remind me to talk about. But they talk about like, we've got to have the awards front and center. And so like I read that as the subtext of like, we have to remind Xbox that we're really important and cool and please don't shut down Double Fine.
I know, but I was just watching that and I was like, they don't have a game that's like in development. This is when Microsoft kills studios. Is like right after you've finished a big project and everyone's like, yeah, we're just kind of, we've been taking, you know, took some time off and like, we've just been kind of like looking around to figure stuff out. And I was like, no, that's when they strike.
But that was a while ago, because now they have multiple projects in the mix and they're ramping up. And so, you know, it was nice to hear that, I forget who it was, but they said like, okay, our role with Game Pass is we need to make the weirdest stuff on Game Pass. It's like, yes, that Double Fine, that's exactly what you should be doing. So like they talked about Tim Schafer has a new project, which he started out with like a really awesome small team that they're slowly building up now. And then Lee Petty over there, he has a new project. I'm really excited to see what he leads because I love all his projects. And then Emily Johnson, the concept artist, she's also leading a project over there. Another moment that was just like knife to my gut is when Scott Campbell, the old concept artist, when he's like, oh, like you really see Emily coming into her own. And he's like, she's a great leader. Like people are inspired by being around her. And he's like, and it's really rare for that to happen. It's only Tim, I feel like, in the office that can bring that across in this way. So to have Emily, who you saw be brought on back in the day, years and years ago for the Double Fine Adventure documentary, to see her now being like one of the most inspiring people in the studio, it's just, it just slayed me. It's so damn good. So if you haven't watched PsychOdyssey, it's all free on YouTube, everybody.
Oh yeah, and then
check it out.
sorry, the final credits of this episode
of everybody
is the most emotionally fulfilling and devastating thing I've ever watched.
It's so damn good. Oh, real quick too, I think it's just fascinating, like on the Microsoft thing and kind of that, you know, subtext of the entire documentary. It's fascinating that like they talk about dropping the documentary. Hey, we're dropping it all at once. We're also putting it up on archive.org. Bam, it's out there, right? And then they have a meeting where they talk about the launch of the documentary the next day or the next couple of days. And Tim Schafer has a line where he's like, I haven't been fired yet. I think it's all okay. And now jump to this, where the physical version of this and stuff, like Assembly PR, who does, you know, PR for Microsoft, they actually like sent out like the press release about Double Fine PsychOdyssey. It's like, it's just kind of fun, weird, full circle for the state of it, but it's incredible. It slayed me. Well, we can find some place to talk about it in private more, Jacob. Maybe on Bonus Pod or something where we can leave these innocent people alone that are trying to listen to a podcast about games and not amazing documentaries about games. But
I know you weren't calling out me specifically when you said bald people who claim to care about the games industry should watch it, but it did spur me to resume where I left off, which was like 10 episodes in, and it is so amazing. It is crazy, the small granular moments of like the little decisions that happen in meetings and stuff. It's like unprecedented.
Yep.
Unprecedented. So cool.
And they talk about it in this documentary too, that like going back and seeing that and see them start to go down the wrong path in these meetings based on these discussions. And they talk about like screaming at the TV, like, no, it's a waste of a year of your life. Don't do it. Oh, another part that killed me too. And this is the last we'll say about it. No, but it's wild that Tim Schafer says, he's like, yeah, in the middle of Psychonauts 2's development, it was so rough. He says, if I could have Men in Black flashed the entire world and just made it seem like we never announced Psychonauts 2 and we just stopped right there, I would have absolutely done it. It's like, that is a wild takeaway. But then the game turned out great. So that's a nice lesson just for how things can seem dark when you're in the middle of it. And that Grim Fandango concert where Tim's talking to the former team about Crunch and apologizing. Okay, all that stuff is just amazing. Anyways, hey, Daniel Duran writes in and says, hey folks, what's your car air freshener philosophy? I recently got one of those little trees you hang on the rearview mirror, but apparently the instructions tell you to leave the plastic wrap on and poke a hole in the top and gradually slide the plastic down the tree in order to control the release of the scent into the vehicle. I'm pretty sure no one on the planet is doing it that way.
These only exist in cartoons. And this writer is writing to us from Cartoon World.
May I jump in with a recent air freshener situation?
Yes.
First of all, I didn't know about the plastic, so I've been blasting myself with lemon scent, and then it disappears after a week.
Your nose is stinging.
I was like, oh, it smells great in here. I can't smell anything but lemon. No, I recently had to take so out here in California, there's a city called Orange, and there is a Toyota dealership, and I have a Toyota. And I took my car in for a free service, and somehow they bricked it or whatever. So I got it home from free service, turned my car on the next day, and it was like, da-ding, da-ding, do not operate the vehicle. Da-ding, da-ding, do not operate the vehicle. And I said, I'm sorry, what? And so when I had picked it up the first time, they gave me a bunch of air fresheners. And because it's the Toyota Orange, the air freshener is a lemon with a slash through it saying like, you won't get a lemon. And I was like, well, you like made my car a lemon. So I put a bunch of the air fresheners up in the windows and like on the mirror as I had my car towed in, because I couldn't operate it to get it back to the dealership. And so I walked out and arms crossed, got it all sorted. But when I left the second time, I actually did like the smell of the air freshener at that point. So I took like 20 more of them. And now I have air fresheners in my car.
Default car driving smell.
Yeah.
Lucy, are you not hip to car air fresheners?
I don't drive, so I can only speak on my experience as a passenger. The ones where you kind of clip them onto the air conditioner unit.
Ooh,
things.
yeah,
like,
those are funky.
Get this sort of softer scent. They seem to last longer.
Right.
I don't like the ones that smell like jelly ball or something. I don't know. There are some where it's just too artificial, even for a car air freshener.
Right.
But honestly, I like just cracking the window a little bit, and that's nature's air freshener.
Yeah, it is.
Depending on where you are.
Like if you bought a car where it was from like a smoker or something, I get it, but how stinky can you really be in a car to warrant this? Like back in the day when I was driving some piece of crap from like 1981 or something, I understand loading that thing full, but I'm surprised that they're still out there as much as they are. I don't want to smell a strong smell in a car.
Is it more like a candle where it's just like, why not have the pleasant experience of smelling something nice?
I guess
it does
so.
really feel like I mostly experience them in like taxis and Ubers. It's just like a place where there are a bunch of people moving out and you're not sure how any of them are going to smell. Like, so they just have to cover it all up.
Yep.
Okay, I feel the need to defend myself. My car smells normally. Totally fine.
I'm sure.
I just put them up because I had them.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. We all like lemons. It makes sense.
My car is new car to lemon. That's it. That's all we're doing.
Okay, smart. But you think if I sat in your car, I would go, whoa, from the smell of the lemon? It feels like it's going to be a lot.
I had just put one up. And so, yeah, it would be crazy. And then as the time goes on, I like stick it in the whatever that central console is.
Sure.
And we're done. And it's been a couple months since I've like stole 20 of them. So
okay. All right.
When they run out, I'm not going to be inspired to re-up.
Okay.
So,
You're doing fine. You're doing fine. Okay. What do y'all like for question of the week? A lot of options here.
I should like the car air freshener.
The car air freshener isn't bad. There's something in your work setup that makes it much better. First digital game.
Catchphrases were
I like the PlayStation.
PlayStation catchphrases too.
I like the 4-player question, simulation or dream. Lucy, how are you feeling?
Let's go PlayStation.
Wow.
Slogans.
Okay, and Haley, this is when you come in fire and you shoot off to boom and you say, "Over my dead body." Are we going with that?
No, I'm down for it. That was
all
great.
right. Congratulations, Derek. You just won Untitled Goose Game on Switch thanks to I'm 8-Bit. Now it is time for something that we call Get a Load of This. Hey, everybody. Get a load of this. We all know Robin Williams has at least one kid, right? And their name is?
Zelda,
of course. Did you know he has more kids named after video games?
I know he has a son because I saw him recently and he looks obviously very similar to Robin Williams, so I didn't catch his name.
Wait, you saw him recently? What kind of cool life are you living? You're hanging out with Robin Williams?
I saw it on a TikTok.
Okay, all right. That's still a pretty cool
Should
life
we
to see.
guess
That.
the video game?
No, that's too much.
Guilty Gear Williams.
Waluigi?
That's it.
Ganondorf.
So he has a son named Cody, who's named after Cody from Final Fight.
Oh.
But can you imagine, because everyone's like, "Oh, Zelda, fun," and then Cody, okay, sure. It was, "Oh, Final Fight rules. It's Cody, everybody." But there you go. Volume out there if you got it.
In 2016, Werner Herzog, a legendary documentarian, did an interview with The Verge where they asked him about Pokemon Go. And I just want to read some of the interview. The interviewer said, "Do you know about Pokemon Go?" He said, "No." The interviewer said, "It's this." He said, "I don't know what Pokemon Go is and what all these things are." The interviewer said, Herzog said, "You're talking to somebody who made his first phone call at age 17. You're talking to someone who doesn't have a cell phone, for example, for cultural reasons." The interviewer said, "Right." Herzog said, "Tell me about Pokemon Go. What is happening on Pokemon Go?" And so then the interviewer says, you walk around, you might meet someone in real life, you catch these little monsters. And Herzog said, "When two persons in search of a Pokemon clash at the corner of Sunset and San Vicente, is there violence? Is there murder? Physically, do they fight? Do they bite each other's hands? Do they punch each other?" So he's just trying to understand Pokemon Go, and it's a very complex situation.
I love it. You got to do it.
Let's get a load of this. There's been this commercial that's made me more viscerally hate AI than anything I've seen about it. We keep seeing it on Olympics coverage, and it's for Gemini AI, and it's like a dad and his daughter's like running a marathon or whatever, and the dad's like, "Gemini, give me a letter to my daughter that tells her how inspirational she is." And I just want to say, get a load of this to that father. That's not anything. That's not you connecting with your daughter.
Stop blowing it. Hey, get a load of this from the MinnMax community in the Discord, the wonderful community channel in the Discord that's just filled with the best news feed you could ever imagine. There's a tweet from Adam Boys responding to, I forget who he's talking to, or to Rami, but he says, they're talking about little cheats in games and fake dials in games. And so Adam Boys responded to it and said, "I love this stuff. I remember when we were working on Blitz the League, there was so much drama around the rubber band AI, so we added a switch to turn it on or off. We hooked it up to nothing, but the placebo effect was so real that people analyzed it for weeks." Perfect. Just have a fake switch. Yeah, there's your rubber band AI. Lucy, do you have a factoid for us?
I learned the other day about an incident about 850 years ago where there were a bunch of dignitaries in Germany who gathered to discuss a land dispute. I believe it's in Erfurt, E-R-F-U-H-T, or maybe R-T. And about 60 of them gathered to have discussed this land dispute. And They were on the second floor of a monastery that was not used to having that many people in it, and they all went through the floor and then went through another floor and landed in the latrine, which is where it used to be in the old monasteries, and 60 people died, either from the fall or from just, landing in a bunch of poop.
Whoa. So whoever survived got the land then?
Well, the king at the time, who later went on to become the Holy Roman Empire, survived because he was on a stone flooring.
Perfect. Love it.
It's my little history thing that I never knew about.
That would give you such a god complex if you were that king.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
I feel like I have been anointed.
Yeah.
That got him to Holy Roman Emperor at that point. He was like,
cream of the
got
crop.
saved.
Haley, you got one?
Well, get a load of this. The next Olympic sport is latrine jumping. No. This is a 1-2 punch. One is a plug that's not necessary, but for the Olympics, there have been some crazy things, the highlights. There's always something every year that's just super awe-inspiring. So everyone check highlights that I'm sure you're seeing anyway. But my actual get a load of this is I want to have Lucy verify it, make sure I heard saw the tweet correctly. Is that this is the Dragon Age, the Veilguard, is going to be the first Dragon Age with mocap? Is that with performance capture?
I believe so, yeah.
Which is...
They filmed a bunch of it, and they had a little clip of Zack being the kind of dog creature. And so, yeah, it's going to be
It's so incredible. It's really going to bring animation up to the next level. And I had recently gone back to look at the old games, and I was like, the animation... it's not that bad. But with mocap, it's going to look great. And if the picture I saw correctly with like the screenshot features Rouge Mocap, which is a studio down here in LA, that's known for doing high volume, high quality capture. So it's going to be really exciting to see how it looks in the game, in the final game.
Oh, Haley, since you're a mocap expert working at Square Enix for years and years on all this stuff.
Okay.
I can't call you a mocap expert. It's your career, right?
I mean, you know what? That's fair. I've worked there more than a year, so that counts.
Okay, there we go. But in Star Wars Outlaws, for Nyx, the little alien buddy, apparently they actually had a puppet on the mocap stage that they were using to capture that, which seems like wild overkill. But is that just a weird marketing beat, or do you think that actually would be helpful to have like Star Wars puppeteers actually puppeteering Nyx?
If you marker it properly and you create the prop correctly and you actually do capture it, I know they do tons of stuff for promo all the time where they marker stuff where you're like, that's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But if it is a dedicated character, it would make a lot of sense to just capture it in that way. Sometimes you do have actors, like full-size humans, perform tiny creatures or big creatures or whatever, and it gets a little tricky. So if you have a puppet and you want it to be puppety, yeah, go for it. That's cool.
Cool stuff. That is it for this huge, long episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. But thank you so much for watching or listening. Lucy and Haley, thank you for joining. And of course, Lucy's cat. Lucy, what would you like to plug of all things?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It has been so lovely chatting with you all. I would like to plug a new season of Star Players, which is on GameSpot every Monday.
Sweet. Check it out. GameSpot's YouTube channel. That's awesome. Haley, do you have anything you want to plug?
Let's see. I'll plug the Asheville meetup for MinnMax. It's going to be super fun. I love
October
all the
5th.
meetups. And I will also plug Star Players because the episode with Monet Exchange popped up on my feed, and it was super, super fun. It's so cool seeing all those actors. You can tell they're getting so excited about what they're talking about. A lot of times they're like, I'm talking too much. I'm too excited. I'm having too much. Like, they're like trying to pull themselves back. And it's really cool to see. So
that's awesome. Speaking of meetups, we are having a community meetup in Chicago. I'm going down for the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth concert. So Saturday, August 17th, 5 p.m., we will be at the Game Room, which is a place with some food and some beer and some fun games to play. But it's the Game Room in downtown Chicago. We'll have a Patreon post soon for more info about that. But if you want to come out and say hi, we can thank you in person for supporting MinnMax. Or you don't need to be a supporter. You can just swing it by if you listen to the show in any way. We'd love to meet you. So August 17th, 5 p.m. Central, the Game Room in Chicago. Please say hello to us. We'd love it. Other stuff here at MinnMax. Yeah, we mentioned the Star Wars Outlaws video preview. Leo and I did a fun video with Jeffum on Monday where I made him play my new favorite arcade game called Volfeed. It's a Taito game from 1989, but it's fun to teach somebody that absurd game because it's so intense. It's so fun. Bonus Pod, our companion podcast to the MinnMax show that's exclusive to Patreon supporters. If you want to help support MinnMax, an independent games media operation, and also unlock bonus content, Bonus Pod is the place for you. Haley hosts it every single week. This week it was so good. It was her taking calls from the community, talking about Earthbound. She dived a lot into like her job as a lawyer for video game IP, but it was one of my favorite episodes of Bonus Pod. It was just awesome to hear Haley let her rip on her own, taking calls from the community and just doing a perfect job, just a perfect tone, super informative. The lawyer stuff was fascinating. So don't overlook Bonus Pod, everybody. Also, Elden Ring, the deepest dive on Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. Jacob Geller wrapped that up last week. Thank you, sir. Great job over there.
Whoop.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Listening to it, I was just in awe of the depth you all went. Like, Renata Price, as always, just came out swinging. The amount that you all, other than Kyle, understand the lore of Shadow of the Erdtree is so humbling to hear as somebody who likes Elden Ring, but I could not name one character from that game. And so it was awesome to hear just you all going in depth. So congrats for wrapping up the deepest dive, man.
Thank you.
But hey, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, listening, sharing, all that fun stuff. And we will be back next week with a whole new episode. Thanks, Lucy. Thanks, Haley. Thanks, Leo. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, everybody. Be good, have fun. Let's go.